Chapter 1273. Heaven's Stairway. On the 1,000,000th step. The time was only 3 days, but Yu Yang needed to comprehend and fully control the power of his own giant of destiny below the height of 1,000 meters. This kind of impossible task had become inevitable. The immovable sovereign, the Eastern Temple Master, the Divine Hall's supreme heavenly chariot, the peerless emperor, one peerless expert after another, were eyeing him covetously. Even in these 3 days, the Night Empress and the others risked their lives in exchange. This time, he could only succeed, he could not fail. If he failed, then Yu Yang believed that he would embark on a path of revenge that he absolutely did not want to see. From the bottom of his heart, he did not want that day to come. Therefore, the comprehension must be successful. Before the inheritance begins, enter the world that I'm meditating in to take a look. Maybe that will help you advance a little. Ji Zun stretched out her hand and gently touched the space between Yu Yang's eyebrows with her slender index finger. The entire Heaven's Stairway world shattered, everything turned into nothingness. Yu Yang could not even feel his own body, only a trace of consciousness existed, but it was not a deep sleep, but a wonderful state of being unable to move, and even thinking was extremely slow. It was very serene, very light. Perhaps this was the feeling when he was in his mother's arms when he was a child. That feeling, it could be said that it had surpassed comfort and was better than pleasure. There was a kind of relief and elegance that was never felt when he had a physical body. It was as if he was one with heaven and earth, returning to eternity together. It was also as if, since thousands of years ago, this peaceful soul had already existed, but after having a physical body, everything in the mortal world had blinded and covered the freedom and happiness of the origin. He mistakenly thought that the burden of the physical body, birth and death, sweet and sour, bitter and spicy, joy and anger, sorrow and joy, these things were the true meaning of life, and everything that life pursued. After getting rid of this layer of flesh, when the soul consciousness that was infinitely close to the origin came out, only then did he know that the real person was actually so light, so free, and so peaceful. Reincarnation after reincarnation, experience after experience, not only could he not successfully return to his original self, but he was lost in the world, and could no longer see the true meaning of life. Only at this moment, Yu Yang finally understood that what he was pursuing was this highest level of liberation and the process of returning to his original self. Could this be the consciousness that Ji Zun gave him? No, this was more like the enlightenment that his mysterious mother had given him. It could also be that the heavenly sword goddess was guiding him on the true path of cultivation. However, it didn't matter who enlightened him. What was important was that he understood his final goal. He also understood the meaning of his existence. In that instant, Yu Yang was so touched that even his soul trembled. No words in the world could describe and express that kind of excitement and happiness. It surpassed everything, including fate, time, space, everything in the world. Just as Yu Yang was about to devote himself to fusing with this true origin and return to his original self, thoughts and desires popped up from the depths of his heart like bubbles, instantly wrapping Yu Yang's soul in them. Her light and intelligent soul suddenly became heavy, sinking continuously, sliding into the endless abyss of time and space, until light and darkness, heaven and earth reappeared, until the sense of belonging to his body appeared. Only then did Yu Yang realize that he had escaped from the most beautiful state of his soul and returned to the chaotic state of his soul. In this state there were all kinds of emotions and concepts in life. There were kinship, there was love, there was yearning, there was also the evolution of all kinds of knowledge and abilities. There were also all kinds of emotional fetters from his guardian beasts, lovers, relatives and friends. It was so complicated that no matter how intelligent a person was, they wouldn't be able to get rid of it. Yu Yang had the urge to cry. As a human, he could now sense the process of birth, aging, sickness, and death in his life. Even if it wasn't his own body, he could still sense the existence of this power of fate in his family and friends. Fourth Uncle and Miss Feng's death, and the birth of the baby left behind by Fourth Uncle and Miss Feng, just happened to form the power of fate of the two extremes of life and death. Since ancient times, the ghost genius Yu Gong, Elder Yu Hai, Yu Shan, Yu Ting and other Yu clan members of the three Renaissance heroes had been passed down from generation to generation. It was also a kind of fate power. No one controlled it, and it didn't go according to anyone's wishes or will. But at the same time, everyone participated in it, and pushed it with all their strength. The power of fate itself was vast and unparalleled. No one could stay out of it. However, everyone used all kinds of strength to push it, pushing the unpredictable and uninterfered fate one step further into the abyss of pain. Other than the gods, no one could escape from this kind of fate power. Even those god realm rankers in the heaven realm couldn't escape the fate of the gods. Only by comprehending one's own self and returning everything to the eternal Holy Sovereign could one truly break away from external interference and create a true life that belonged to one's self. Who is the true Holy Sovereign? That kind of eternal power that surpasses everything, that kind of supreme understanding of one's own self. Can I also do it? I haven't even reached the God realm yet. Can I surpass life, age, sickness and death? Can I control fate in my own hands and use my consciousness to control it? Even if I can do it, how can I control the fate of others? Yu Yang fell into endless thoughts. It was as if he could see Fatty Hai, Yi Kong and the others fighting a bloody battle with the enemy. If he couldn't control their fate, then Fatty Hai, Yi Kong and the others couldn't escape the ultimate fate of birth, old age, sickness and death. They didn't have eternal life. Under the enemy's attack, they could be sacrificed at any time. Wu Xia, Qian Qian, Fallen Flowers, Wu Hen, Sister Yu, Lu Yi, Xia Yi, Bao Er, Xiaonu and the others, even the guardian warbeasts Little One Li, Red, Ah-Man, Jiang Ika and Future were the same. If they couldn't control the power of fate, then they would fall, just like how Queen Vivian Li was defeated in battle. Everything would return to nothingness. No matter how bright their lives, no matter how glorious their achievements, no matter how glorious their battles, they would all be annihilated in the river of time. If he wanted all of this to continue, there was only one way. That was to return everything to eternity, surpassing fate, separating one's life from the outside world, using one's free will and self to construct a completely new, eternal, and inextinguishable life. Only then would one truly be able to control the power of fate. Otherwise, even if one comprehended the divine level, they would still be insignificant, and they would similarly decline in the long river of time. Who can help me? Who can help me? I am still too weak now. Who can give me stronger power? Who can give me more wisdom? Who can give me more enlightenment? Such thoughts appeared in Yu Yang's heart. He saw his own self and understood fate. What he lacked now was to improve himself. Boom. The world that originally only had light and darkness, heaven and earth shattered once again. It was as if someone was chuckling in his ear and waving goodbye. Yu Yang didn't have time to catch what it was. He only knew that he was once again out of a state of comprehension. Not only could he not see his own self, he could not even comprehend the power of fate. He seemed to have become muddle-headed all of a sudden. He clearly knew that it wasn't like this, but his brain couldn't wrap itself around it. He was muddle-headed, and in the end, he became a mess. Why was it like this? Why did he lose the things that he had clearly comprehended? Why did he become stupid in an instant? Could it be that someone had added a higher and more extraordinary wisdom to his own wisdom just now, thus enlightening him? That was actually not his true comprehension? Fatty Hai was currently fighting. He had his clan, his ideals, his grimoire, and his fighting style. His fate was advancing uncontrollably. Perhaps his next step would be to slide into the abyss of death. Yi Kong was currently fighting. His fate was also advancing uncontrollably. Everyone that he knew was going through their own lives at the same time, including his enemies, the Eastern Palace Lord and the supreme heavenly chariot of the Divine Palace. They weren't static either. They were also using all kinds of methods to fight openly and covertly, using all kinds of power to push their own or other people's fate forward. If I want to stop them, I need to have super strong power. That power must be higher than the mountains and deeper than the sea. Even if it's contained in the heavens and earth, it must be overflowing. It must surpass all wisdom and power. Only then can I control the fate of my family, friends, enemies, and all other fates in the palm of my hand. When Yu Yang had this realization in his heart, he realized that he had only seen Ji Zun's true revelation now. Or rather, all the enlightenment that Ji Zun had given him. Now, this was the real beginning. Then was everything that he had seen previously just an illusion? Or was it that mysterious mother, the heavenly sword goddess, they were secretly guiding him to enlightenment? Wah! Yu Yang saw a baby fall to the ground. Following that, a beautiful woman with a face full of love picked it up and gently kissed the crying baby. As she smiled, she said to her family and friends, "Look at her eyes, she was born with divine eyes and is endlessly intelligent. My baby, she will definitely become an amazing expert in the future. She has the power to break free from fate. I think she will definitely be able to control her own life with her own free will. Yes, I have been looking forward to it for thousands of years. Today, my wish has finally been fulfilled. With her potential, as long as she doesn't walk the wrong path, she will definitely become a divine sovereign that will illuminate the entire Tong Tian Tower." The beautiful woman's friend stretched out her white little finger and teased the newborn baby. "It's a pity that it's a girl. If it was a boy, how good would that be?" There were also some people who showed a trace of regret. "It doesn't matter, let's pray for a boy with the same potential. He will definitely succeed. Even if he is a divine sovereign, he must be in pairs so that he won't be lonely in his long life. Let's find another companion for her. Little baby, I'll pray for a little brother for you. How about it? Are you happy?" Amidst the teasing and laughter, the crying baby suddenly calmed down. With a pair of crystal-clear eyes, it looked curiously in front of it. It was as if it knew how to recognize everything in the world with its eyes. The sun rose and set. The moon rose and fell. Yu Yang saw that under another starry sky, a second baby was born. This time it was also a baby girl. Unlike her older sister, her birth caused her mother and friend to feel uneasy. She has the power of destruction in her body, but she doesn't have wisdom to guide her. I'm afraid that she will walk on an unpredictable path in the future. The friend with the white little finger sighed worriedly. "Don't worry, I will definitely take care of her in the future. With me here, her fate will never go astray. I will use my strength to change her and everything in Tong Tian Tower. Since there is no little brother to inherit, I will take responsibility. I will not let you all down." There was a young girl with a face full of determination. She clenched her small fist. "I will definitely become the #1 person in Tong Tian Tower. I will definitely become a sovereign. Even if I am a girl, as long as I work hard enough, I will definitely be able to do it. Don't be too tired. You are still a child. Moreover, it is too lonely to be alone. Let's pray for a little brother for you. This time, you will definitely succeed. Maybe it will be 10 years, maybe it will be 100 years, maybe it will be 1,000 years. Even if we are gone, isn't there still the wishing flower tree? You will definitely succeed. Little Aunt loves you the most. She will definitely not let you be alone." Chapter 1274. In the memory world, time flew by. Yu Yang saw that the little girl had gradually grown up. Her little sister had also changed from a sleeping baby to a lively and active little girl. The little sister liked her older sister, and would always follow closely behind her. Her little feet would run behind her, and her laughter would fill the entire road. However, until the end, Their beautiful and loving mother did not continue to bring them a younger brother. On a night when the beautiful meteor shower constantly cut through the night sky, the always smiling mother died forever. Why? Different from her younger sister who cried for her mother, she was strong and just asked her aunt who brought back the unfortunate news. Why? That wasn't a mission that we had to do, nor was it a responsibility that we had to bear. Why did Mom have to bear it alone? Didn't Mother say that she wanted to give us another younger brother? She also said that with a younger brother, he could revive the stairway to heaven and our home in the future. Why did she break her promise? Without a younger brother, how could we revive the stairway to heaven in the future? How could she just abandon us like this and sneak away? Why? Why did she do that? I don't understand, I don't understand. The white-fingered aunt, the teacher who could usually answer any question for her, did not answer. She just sighed softly. On another night when a meteor streaked through the sky, the aunt who loved them dearly never came back. The aunt who brought back the news slowly handed her aunt's relic, the emerald spirit ring that she always wore on her slender white finger, to the trembling Yu-Yang. Then, she stretched out her hand, gently stroked the top of her head, and left silently. Standing under the tree of life, she held the emerald spirit ring tightly in her hand, and bit her lower lip. She was unusually strong and did not cry. Blood dripped from her lower lip. Drop by drop, it dripped on her white bra, like a red flower on fire. Why? She could not understand. Why did it become like this? It was a duty and a war that did not belong to her. Why did she risk her life to fight? For some outsiders who had betrayed them or were indifferent to them, for some strangers who didn't even know the truth, they fought so hard and even sacrificed their own lives. What was the reason for this? When a demon escaped from the seal, many people did not banish it for their own benefit. Instead, they treated it as the venerable and treated it with great respect. The ambitious ones would even help the evildoer. Why save people like them? Why did he have to fight at all costs? Why did he have to sacrifice his own life to seal the devil? Those who had fallen with the demons were all bad people. They were all snobbish people. Why would they care about the lives of these fallen warriors, or ants? In order to get answers, she brought her sister to a place of hibernation and found a dreamer who had fallen into eternal slumber in order to guard the world. I already know why you're here. The sleeper's voice was as gentle as a mother's. Everyone has a different answer. Perhaps my answer is not the one you want in your heart. We just want to know why Mother left us. The younger sister was still sad about their mother's silent departure. The demon has escaped from the ancient seal, and no one is going to seal him. Not only will you see him as a stranger, but even our own race will be wiped out in the future. At such a time, someone has to step forward, the sleeper explained. That's right. Then why Mama? There are so many powerhouses in Tong Tian Tower, so why is our mother the only one sealed? Why not someone else? Some powerhouses not only don't fight against the demons, they even cooperate with them and even attack us when we're down. Why should we save such people? Isn't it better to let them fall with the demons? The younger sister felt sad and angry when she thought about what happened in the past. That is indeed the case. But our sacrifice has nothing to do with those fallen people. The most important reason we do this is to protect our home, to protect our people and loved ones. For example, your mother. She stepped forward to do this and made such a sacrifice. It's not that she doesn't love you. On the contrary, your mother loves you too much. She's afraid that one day, you'll walk the path of the demons because of your power. So, she decided to set an example for you so that you won't fall and become demons in the future. This is her true painstaking effort. When you grow up, one day, when you have children, you'll understand the meaning of this sacrifice. The sleeper's words were still unable to completely appease the stubborn younger sister. But in her ears, it gave her a different kind of feeling. Auntie, is she the same? She asked softly. If that's the case, why didn't Auntie explain it clearly to her? She's the teacher of the two of you. You don't understand it now, but in the future, you'll definitely understand. In fact, the eternity of life isn't determined by the length of time, but by understanding. Birth isn't the same as the beginning, and death isn't the same as the end. Even if they fall, their will and inheritance will always be there. Your growth will always be under their protection, just in a different way. The last thing your teacher gave you is a kind of understanding that allows you to abandon fear and pain. It's a kind of awakening that can be carried through the entire world until eternity. If one day you can understand it, then you'll have truly grown up. The sleeper said something that puzzled her at that time. I don't understand. She couldn't understand, nor could she agree. No matter what, Mama, Auntie, and everyone else are all dead. They're gone forever. Mama abandoned us and left by herself. She said she would accompany us for life, but she didn't do it. Mama, she lied to us. The younger sister cried sadly and aggrievedly. She also wanted to be with you, but even a god will fall one day. Moreover, the sleeper sighed softly. Is it because I'm too weak? She suddenly had an epiphany in her heart. Yes and no, the sleeper explained ambiguously. Without a younger brother, what will we do in the future? She raised another doubt. When the big tree that shelters the wind and rain falls, the sprouts on the ground will grow rapidly under the illumination of the sun. One day, the sprouts will grow into another towering tree. Maybe it will grow even longer and bigger. Who knows? As for a younger brother, even if you don't have one now, one day you'll have one. The Bright Moon faction hasn't given up, and the Silent Night faction won't either. Not only us, but the 100 Flowers faction and the Butterfly faction have been working hard for thousands of years. The stairway to heaven is the foundation of the Tower of Babel. It's the bridge and stairway to a higher world. It won't fall forever. The sleeper didn't know when the revival would come, but she believed that one day, as long as she continued to work hard. What should we do? She asked at last. Do what you want to do. Your lives are completely in your hands. Whether it's exciting, happy, or perfect, it's all under the control of your wisdom and will. Don't think about others. Do what you want to do the most, what you love to do the most. As long as you always remember Mama and the many elders who looked after you, the sacrifices they've made for you, and the enlightenment they've given you. The sleeper didn't point out the path, but she had made a decision in her heart. Similarly, the younger sister had made a decision in her heart. On the way back, the younger sister, who had always been obedient, suddenly proposed a farewell that made her feel incomparably surprised. The younger sister wanted to leave. She said that she didn't like this kind of life for a long time. She longed for freedom. Even if everything her older sister gave her was the best, and the training methods she arranged were the most suitable for her to improve, she didn't like it at all since the sleeper said that everyone could do what they wanted to do the most, what they loved to do, and do as they pleased. Then in the following days, it was the days when they could fly alone freely. The younger sister was very afraid of her older sister. No matter if it was her strength, intelligence, or the habits and temperament that had been formed since young, none of them were enough for her to go against her older sister. Her older sister was born with an innate dignity. This kind of dignity even surpassed that of her mother and her little aunt, who was her teacher. Even so, the younger sister bravely said it for the first time in her life. Weakly, she lowered her head, but the willpower in her voice was incomparably firm. The younger sister was also a person with her own opinions. It was just that she was afraid of her older sister, so she never showed it. Is that so? Finally, you're going to leave as well? She was very sad because she felt that she had taken good care of her younger sister. However, such care with all her heart and soul could not be exchanged for her younger sister's approval. She even thought that it was a kind of restraint that restricted her freedom. This farewell, to the current her, was really a very big blow. At the very least, It destroyed the self-confidence that she had painstakingly built up after her mother and little aunt left. "I'm sorry," the younger sister cried loudly. Suddenly, she lost control and screamed, "The person I hate the most is my older sister. Although you gave the best things, the best treasures, to me, I know that no matter how much I get, I will never be able to match up to my older sister. I hate this. Why don't I have the talent that my older sister has? Why can't I match up to my older sister no matter how hard I work? I don't need your sympathy, and I don't need to be taken care of. You gave me the best, but I'm not grateful at all." Sob, sob. "I also hate my mother and little aunt the most. The way they look at me is completely different from how they look at you, my older sister. Why are they worried about me? I also work very hard. Why are they worried about me? I don't need them to worry about me. I can do very well, I can always be obedient, and I will never fall into the path of evil. Why are they so worried about me? Even if they don't say it, I know that they are very afraid of me. Why do they want to arrange my life? I am not anyone's chess piece. I can prove that. I can do very, very well on my own." Hearing the words in her younger sister's heart, the vibration was very strong. She had never thought that her younger sister would have such thoughts, and she had never imagined that she would have such psychological pressure. Perhaps freedom was the most important thing. Since that was the case, then let her do as she wished. Everyone had their own life, and her younger sister's life should be decided by her own will. As her younger sister wailed loudly, the strong-willed her younger sister took a deep breath. She regained her usual rationality and calmness. She turned around and left. For the first time, she left her younger sister behind in the outside world that she was worried about. The lonely figure under the bright moon looked very lonely, but the strong-willed her footsteps were still steady. She gently stroked the emerald ring and the white jade pendant that were strung on her neck. These were the belongings of her little aunt and mother. As long as she carried them with her, she would feel endless power, as if her little aunt and mother were by her side to protect her. Now, even if I am the only one left, without my younger sister or brother, I can still do it. She gently clenched her fists and looked up at the clear night sky. Her godly eyes were shining under her long eyelashes. Her radiance was 1,000 times brighter than the brightest stars in the sky. "Mother and little aunt, I won't let you down. Even without my younger brother, I will still become the best in the world, and I can still do my best." Chapter 1275. Time passed bit by bit in the lonely and arduous training. Unknowingly, 100 years had passed. Yu Yang could see that for a whole 100 years, the lonely her almost never left the valley of life where she cultivated. Her stubborn younger sister never came back. Even her aunt, the only relative she had left, rarely came to visit her because she had taken over the sex affairs. She had no time to spare. Just like that, he cultivated alone, with only the bright moon in the sky as his companion, with only his lonely shadow accompanying him. He cultivated alone, forgetting himself. Only when he was about to fall asleep from exhaustion would he look up at the starry night sky and recall his mother from back then, as well as his aunt who was his first teacher, who had taught him how to grow up. His innate realm had advanced rapidly, and his domain power had gradually been comprehended with the help of his god eyes. His supreme martial artist will was born without a teacher, and it was continuously perfecting itself. He had used the sword of life during a breakthrough in his mind. The black piece that shattered space. The rainbow chord trio, the seal of eternal nirvana, and the sunlight illumination that could illuminate the entire world and annihilate everything in its path, and so on and so forth. One after another, he comprehended and realized them in his lonely and bitter cultivation. When her aunt came to see her on the 100th anniversary of her mother's death, she didn't need to give her a war god guard anymore. She already had a unique humanoid divine weapon. You, who have the sovereign will, are already one of the few strong people in Tong Tian Tower. Aunt let her go around Tong Tian Tower to gain experience. Now she didn't have to worry about not being able to pass the door of life and death. As long as she was willing, Aunt could even let her travel to Heaven Realm to train. In just 100 years, she would have grown to a super high realm that Aunt couldn't compare with. But I am still not the #1 person in Tong Tian Tower. She chose to continue training and chose the lonely path of the sovereign will. It's very difficult for girls. Aunt sighed. Although she didn't want to hurt her, there was a cruel fact. Tong Tian Tower had never had a woman become the #1 person in the world. Even the most powerful conquering queen, Fei Wenli, had only risen to the peak of the Heaven Realm after she left Tong Tian Tower and continued to grow. Her Majesty the Snake Demon Queen in Tong Tian Tower was actually not the #1 person in Tong Tian Tower. Of course she knew. But she didn't have a brother. She was the only one who could fulfill her mother and aunt's last wishes. Moreover, she had enough confidence that she would definitely become the #1 person in Tong Tian Tower. She would become a supreme being that could look down on the entire world. I don't lack talent, nor do I lack diligence. One day I will succeed. She looked up at the horizon. That pair of beautiful divine eyes exuded confidence and determination that could make the moon lose its color. Yu Yang felt the same way. At that moment, he suddenly had the urge to hug her tightly. He did not know when it started, but he had also been training hard like this. He also carried the expectations of the heavenly sword goddess, the hopes of his mother and fourth mother, whom he had never met before, and the pressure of his little sister and lovers. For the sake of his future, for the sake of his happiness, he also trained hard like this every day. No one knew and no one could understand how hard it was, how lonely it was behind that hard work. Yu Yang had a feeling. It was the same as him. At the very least, they were strangely similar. Other than their gender and thoughts, they were almost the same in every other aspect. Cultivation was too bitter. This kind of pain was something that others could not understand and could not dilute in the slightest. It came from the bottom of the heart and was deeply imprinted in the soul. That kind of pain that destroyed the pressure countless times and rebuilt the confidence countless times finally turned into strength through sweat and awakening. Bit by bit it forged herself. There was no goal and he did not know when the end would be. He could only rely on himself to explore. He wandered between success and failure endlessly. Only when he was destroyed and reborn would he be able to obtain the sweetness of success, the birth of strength, and the taste of happiness. It was too difficult, it was too bitter. Yu Yang could understand that kind of pain and could completely understand that kind of lonely growth. He even felt that she was in more pain than him. Because behind him, there was still the heavenly sword goddess and the sword Chi little lowly. Even if he trained alone, he still had them by his side. It could not be compared to her training alone for 100 years. He looked at her from the void, empathizing with her. He looked at her as she spent another 100 years in the Valley of Life, sweating like rain. Holy Grimoire! When her summoning grimoire leveled up into a unique holy grimoire, she did not even have time to rejoice. An unfamiliar sword servant brought her a piece of unfortunate news. In the end, her aunt also died. The Bright Moon lineage no longer had any elders. Without a leader, the Bright Moon lineage could only send someone to ask her, the successor who was like a martial arts fanatic, if she was willing to leave the Valley of Life and inherit the position of sect master of the Northern Moon Mystical Immortal Pavilion. Because they already knew her character and temper, no matter if it was the elders of the Fairy Pavilion or her aunt before she died, they did not think that a martial arts fanatic like her would agree to take over the position in the secular world. Perhaps it was because they wanted to give it a try, but the Celestial Spirit Pavilion sent out their most eloquent flying star sword servant to inquire about her wishes and intentions. "Where's my sister?" She did not understand. Other than herself, wasn't there another sister who was also a successor? The little princess has already entered the demonic palace and became the youngest and most talented little sky demon, Sky Law. We went to look for the little princess before. In fact, it was the little princess who asked me to come and find you. The flying star sword servant had the best eloquence in the world, and was praised by everyone in Tong Tian Tower. But in front of her, under the majesty of the supreme will that looked down on all living things, she could not even speak a complete sentence. I understand. She nodded lightly. 3 days later, the North Moon Fairy Pavilion had a new sect leader with a god's eye inherent skill. She was known as the sect leader Ming Xian. In the next 10 years, she, who had taken over the Northern Moon Fairy Pavilion, never left the sect for even a single step. She had always been training the female disciples that she had selected from all over the soaring dragon continent with her divine eyes, inherent skill, as well as the sword servants, sword guards and sword slaves that the sect had specially selected. She did not officially accept any disciple, but in the entire sect, as long as she gave pointers, anyone, no matter if it was the strongest elder or the temporary outer disciple, would have a huge breakthrough. The North Moon Fairy Pavilion, which was originally the closest to the decline of the 4 great sects, suddenly had a new lease of life. They once again caught up to and surpassed the other 3 sects, leaving their opponents far behind. They were promoted to a whole new realm that the entire sect could not believe. All of this was because of her arrival. Many rankers from the Southern Mountains Floating Mist sect, Western Lion Pagoda and Eastern Ocean Crystal Palace, even their sect leaders, all sent letters requesting for marriage. There were marriage proposals to the disciples under her, but most of them were marriage proposals to her, the sect master who possessed the innate talent of the divine eye. She chose to ignore the rumors that were swirling around in the outside world, and this included the many marriage proposals as well. Until one day at noon, many rankers from the 3 great sects and the soaring dragon continent came uninvited. Only then did she give an official reply. The phoenix has aspirations, spread its wings 10,000 miles, soar through the universe, and will not fall unless it is a tree. This reply angered all the rankers in the soaring dragon continent on the spot. Whether it was those who wanted to marry her, or the warriors who just wanted to watch the show, they were all furious at this reply that was close to slapping their faces. One must know that the soaring dragon continent had always been ruled by men. Even if there were countless female rankers, there had never been anyone who dared to challenge the position of being ruled by men. Furthermore, this was disregarding all the men in the soaring dragon continent. A mere woman, what right did she have to be so arrogant? Many people came to request for marriage, mainly because they wanted to obtain a wife with the god's eye inherent skill, and at the same time swallow up the North Moon Fairy Pavilion to strengthen their own sect. Not only did they reject her, they even dared to say something like, "The phoenix has aspirations, spread its wings 10,000 miles, soar through the universe, and will not fall unless it is a tree." This was simply a provocation and insult to all the men in the soaring dragon continent. Could it be that there was no man in the soaring dragon continent who was worthy of her? From today onwards, in the soaring dragon continent, no matter which sect, no matter what name, I will be the #1 ranker. Those who disobey will be executed, those who defy will be exterminated. She covered her face, appearing in front of the rankers in the soaring dragon continent for the first time in her life. It was also the first time she declared that she was the #1 ranker in the world. When these deafening words came out, everyone was stunned. Are you crazy? The Southern Floating Mist sect's White River sect's sect leader laughed to the sky. Even though he was the strongest, he would not speak such arrogant words lightly. A mere little woman who is only fit to seek pleasure under a man's crotch, how dare she be so arrogant? The Western Lion Pagoda's sect leader was enraged. He felt that hearing such words was the biggest humiliation in his life. As a man, a ranker, he had never thought that he would be humiliated by a woman like this. Power is king. She completely ignored the anger of the warriors present. All right, then let me. The Western Lion Pagoda's sect leader jumped out like an angry lion, impatiently challenging her. There's no need to say your name. A small character like you who is destined to be buried in the river of history is not worthy of me remembering your name. With a casual swing of her sword, she beheaded the Western Lion Pagoda's sect leader, who was known as the #1 ranker in the Soaring Dragon continent. Under her supreme will, she looked down on all living beings. The Southern Floating Mist sect's White River sect's sect leader, who was known as the Soaring Dragon duo together with the Western Lion Pagoda's sect leader, deeply lowered his noble and arrogant head. In front of absolute power, he had no choice but to lower his head. Acknowledging a woman as the #1 ranker, all the arrogant rankers trembled as they paid their respects to her. This was just the beginning of her quest to become the #1 ranker in the world. 100 years later, Yu Yang saw that out of the 5 emperors of Tong Tian Tower, 3 died and 2 were injured. The strongest dazzling light emperor, the majestic ocean emperor and the heaven-devouring demon emperor, who was known as the strongest ranker in the demon abyss in 10,000 years after the conquering queen, all fell at her feet. The heavily injured dragon emperor and emperor of the underworld raised their hands to pay their respects to her. In front of Elder Nangong, a historical witness, her path to becoming the innate elder had officially begun. I did it. She returned to the Valley of Life. In front of her mother's and aunt's graves, under the wishing flower tree, she made her second wish. All of you who have been protecting me should have seen it. Please grant me a younger brother. I'm too lonely. Chapter 1276. Time flew like an arrow. Yu Yang saw a lonely figure who often sat quietly on the carefree peak of the Valley of Life. She, who had lost her goal, fell into a kind of confusion. She was no longer the #1 Ji Zun of Tong Tian Tower, but a weak girl who couldn't even find someone to talk to. The lonely Ji Zun at the top could not compare to the aimless lost life. She didn't have a younger sister who ran around behind her, and she didn't have a younger brother who could inherit the faith of her mother and other elders. She was alone. She could no longer find the right direction to cultivate. The holy grimoire had reached its peak, and there was no possibility of improvement. She fell into a lonely panic. No one could tell her what to do in the future, but she knew one thing, and that was that she was still very far away from the God realm. What should she do? Could it be that this girl could not become the strongest Ji Zun in the world? With this doubt and the loss of the future, she went to find the sleeper for the second time. I knew you would come again, but I didn't think you would come so soon. Your innate talent and your improvement are indeed the most shocking I have ever seen. Even the prison emperor back then, or even the legendary serpent empress who was said to have the most innate talent, did not grow as fast as you. Compared to others, you are more focused and have more comprehension. The sleeper seemed to have known that she would come and was very happy to enlighten the new supreme martial artist who was lost in life. Your current state is actually a checkpoint for a breakthrough. As long as you can break through, you will find that there is an even higher and brand new realm waiting for you. Then what should I do next? She didn't know how to break through the current situation. Perhaps you already know that the Holy Grimoire is not the ultimate form of our summoning grimoire. Even if it is already the embodiment of a very high realm, there is still the godly grimoire above it. The sleeper gave a hint. The godly grimoire chooses its master, you can't force it. She knew about the godly grimoire, but she was even more clear about the fact that the godly grimoire chose its master. No one could force the godly grimoire. Let's talk about the state of cultivation first. Later, I will tell you about the godly grimoire. The sleeper changed the topic and laughed lightly. Now that you have the will of a Ji Zun, even if you can't enter the god realm, you can barely be called a demigod. Demigod. She didn't understand the relationship between the two. It is said that in the heaven realm or the heaven realm, there are many such demigods. To a certain extent, they already possessed great strength and power, but they were still a long way from becoming a true god or a divine sovereign. Of course, even in the true divine realm, the disparity between the various divine-level experts was still very large. The difference between the strongest true god and the weakest true god was like the difference between a mountain and a sand, or between an ocean and a millet. So the question was, why was there such a huge gap between them? Why were some god-level experts the weakest god-level experts, while some were the strongest? There were many people who had cultivated for the same amount of time, and even though their cultivation time and intensity were inferior to their opponents, the one who worked the hardest might be the weakest divine level, while the one who did not need to work too hard might be the stronger divine level. Why was this so? Finally, knowing that they are the weakest god level, why don't they continue to work hard and close the gap between them and the strongest god level? The series of questions from the sleeper puzzled her. She could not answer, because these were all items above the divine level. Without comprehending them, she had no right to speak. But she knew one thing: there must be a reason. It was impossible for the one who worked the hardest to be the weakest. The sleeper's voice was as gentle as a mother's, as wise as when her aunt taught her. It was soft, but unconsciously, it was deeply engraved in her heart. The reason is very simple. Because after advancing to the divine level, it is very difficult to continue cultivating, and it is also very difficult for one to improve much. Even with the accumulation of a long period of time, the improvement is relatively small. That kind of gap cannot be closed through hard work after the divine level. This is the truth. The sleeper told her a truth that ordinary warriors could not possibly know. Why is it so difficult to improve after advancing to the divine level? She was very confused. Wasn't it easier to cultivate at a higher level? Humans are the easiest to cultivate. The sleeper smiled. Only the human body is the easiest to cultivate. But aren't humans the weakest life form? She asked curiously. Yes. Humans are the weakest life form. Not only are they the weakest, but they are also the most bitter and tired. Birth, old age, sickness, and death are companions for a lifetime. Their fragile bodies are controlled by all kinds of irresistible laws. For example, when they are hungry, they need to eat. When they are thirsty, they need to drink. Apart from these, there are also all kinds of pain and torment of physiological functions. When they are tired, they need to sleep. When their desires are high, they need to vent. When their emotions are high, they need to be excited and depressed. Regardless of whether they laugh or cry, or are lonely and silent, they are all part of the process of life. In this short and unpredictable life, they grow up at a high speed and age at a high speed. In the end, they die of old age and illness. It can be said that many people can't escape this invisible but ever-present fate throughout their lives. In this painful process, there are also countless lust fetters, all kinds of gratitude and grudges, and all kinds of selfishness, perseverance, and even evil habits. All of these are messed up their minds. They don't even have a chance to breathe. They are always immersed in it and drowned in it. The social organizations established by humans are like a quagmire that devours the people who belong to it. No one can escape. If that's the case, then why is it the easiest to cultivate? She completely did not understand why this was the case. Perhaps this is the wish of the ancient great god, or perhaps this is an extremely rare opportunity. The sleeper explained like this. Becoming a human is a kind of opportunity? She was completely shocked. Yes. Haven't you noticed? All war beasts, no matter if they are guardian war beasts or normal war beasts, if they want to truly grow into a divine beast, they must evolve into a human. For example, in our Heaven Stairway clan, there are some strong warriors who can completely get rid of their human bodies and appear in a higher form. Why don't they do this? Instead, they follow the laws of humans and live out their lives in sickness and sickness? If they want to, they can live for thousands of years or even longer. They don't need to suffer like humans, they don't need to rest every day, and they don't need to eat and drink every day. Why do they choose their own lives like this? Why do they want to pass it down to their descendants? Some of our clansmen even take the initiative to marry other clans and use the human way to give birth. Why is that? The sleeper's series of questions caused her to fall into a state of confusion. That's right. Why is that? If humans are so painful and unfortunate, why do they still want to become human? Even if they become human, why do they want to choose the same fate as humans, instead of living freely and unfettered? Could it be that becoming a human was really the greatest opportunity for every life? What was the answer? Becoming a human is very difficult. The sleeper first affirmed, it is extremely difficult for any life form to become a human. Whether it was in Tong Tian Tower, Heaven Realm, or Heaven Realm, it was an extremely difficult and long process for the living beings there to transform into humans. The vast majority of living beings would never be able to transform into humans in their entire life. For example, there are some beasts that are strong enough to shake mountains and fill the seas, but they are unable to become human. There are also some extremely strong warriors who can destroy the earth with a wave of their hands and suppress millions of people with a single thought, but they are also unable to become human. Through these examples, we can conclude that becoming a human is actually the most difficult, but also the best. Although humans themselves are the most bitter, they are indeed the best existence. It seems a little contradictory. She felt a little confused. Yes, life is such a contradiction. The strongest does not equal to the best, and the best does not equal to the strongest. The reason why humans are the best is because humans can improve through cultivation and awakening. Through learning and growth, they can quickly ascend to an unimaginable realm. This kind of process, if it was in other life forms, would not exist. You can see, in the soaring dragon continent, there are countless human warriors that are like ants. Perhaps there are millions of them, but not one of them can ascend to the innate realm, let alone the supreme innate realm. However, no one can guarantee that among them, there will be a baby or a teenager who will quickly grow up and become the new prison emperor, or the new conqueror queen. This is how humans are, full of the unknown. In the midst of pain and despair, if there is someone who can wake up and walk out from it, then he will have succeeded. He will immediately change, and through continuous hard work, he will surpass himself and continuously ascend to a higher realm, until he reaches a height that no other life form can imagine. The sleeper gave the answer. Why can only humans be like this? She understood most of it, but there was still a part that she was confused about. Because in the most bitter realm, the one who comprehends and cultivates is the best, the strongest. When the sleeper said this, it was as if the knot in her heart had been unraveled. In an instant, she felt as if she had ascended to a higher level, and her original confusion was swept away. The most bitter? She muttered to herself. Compared to others, her cultivation was indeed the most bitter. Was that why she was so much better than others? That's right. Let's go back to the previous question. Why is it so difficult for you to improve in your cultivation? It's because you are the same as many super experts, including many divine-level experts. You can no longer endure too much bitterness. You already have the will of a supreme martial artist. Even if you are lonely, even if you are in pain, your state of mind will not waver. You can also continue to persevere. If you don't eat for a day, your body that is full of energy will not feel hungry. If you don't drink a drop of water for a day, your body that is nourished by spiritual energy will not dry up. If you don't sleep, you will not feel tired. Even if you move a mountain, you will not feel tired. You are already close to becoming a demigod, and there is almost no bitterness. You will not comprehend and awaken more through bitterness, so your cultivation will not improve. Right now, you are only a demigod. If you climb to a higher divine level, you will be able to do anything with a single thought. You can eat, drink, play, and be merry without restraint. There is no pain at all, only happiness. In this divine level where you can't endure bitterness and won't feel tired even when you cultivate, if you want to improve, I believe that you will not improve much even after 10,000 years. The sleeper clearly and intelligently explained the difference between humans and gods, as well as the changes in cultivation. Humans are very bitter, but they can learn, cultivate, comprehend, and awaken, and improve rapidly. There is no bitterness in the divine level, only joy. Without bitterness, there is no improvement. Without enlightenment, there is no way to talk about climbing to a brand new realm. Therefore, you will always be at the same level. Then why are there the weakest divine level experts and the strongest divine level experts? She had a new question. If they were all cultivated, shouldn't they all be in the same realm? Everyone should be the same, so why was there such a big difference? The method of cultivation is different, and the pain you endure is different. Naturally, the realm of enlightenment is also different. The sleeper smiled. This is what I wanted to tell you. For example, you have cultivated for 100 years, but you are stronger than others who have cultivated for 1,000 years. Why? Isn't it because you have cultivated harder and more focused than others? Of course, your talent is also very important, but the most important thing is that you have put in the effort, which is why you have this kind of return. What do I have to do to reach the strongest divine level, the Holy Supreme? She finally had a new goal, and that was to reach the strongest divine level, the legendary Holy Supreme. Give up. The sleeper gave an answer. What? She didn't understand. What I mean is to give up your current realm, including the various powers that you have comprehended. Return from the demigod realm to the human realm, and cultivate from the beginning. When the sleeper said this, she was stunned. She had to give up all the things that she had painstakingly cultivated? Did she really have to do this? If she had no way of cultivating from the beginning, wouldn't she not even be able to maintain her current realm? If she cultivated from the beginning, how could she know if it would be better or faster than it was now? She pondered for a long time. The ultimate desire to reach the strongest divine level and the Holy Supreme, as well as the promise she had made to her mother and aunt, made her get rid of her hesitation. She would only be the best, only be the strongest. Demigod? Demigod was nothing at all. If she wanted to do it, she would become the strongest divine level. If she wanted to do it, she would become the legendary Holy Supreme that no one could reach. She clenched her fists, and the light that shot out of her eyes was even purer and more intelligent than the bright moon in the sky. She took a deep breath, and with the Holy Supreme's will, she firmed her ambition, and also firmed her heart of cultivation. At this moment, although she spoke softly on the surface, it had the power to overturn rivers and overturn seas, and from this moment on, her fate had completely changed. She had embarked on a path that no one could predict, the Holy Supreme. I want to cultivate from the beginning. She had decided to be the best she could be, to become the strongest Holy Supreme. Cultivating from the beginning means giving up your current situation, but it doesn't mean that you have to erase everything that you have comprehended. You just need to temporarily seal those things and store them in another space, so that they represent one realm of yours, one time of comprehension and one time of cultivation. On the day that you finally succeed, on the day that you become the Holy Supreme, you can take all of them out, combine them perfectly, and build a world that belongs to you. On that day, you will understand that you have reached that realm, and what you have. At that time, you will be a true God, a true Holy Supreme. Cultivation is not something that can be achieved in a day or two, nor can it be completed in 1 or 2 times. That painful process requires a long and tortuous tempering, until you reach the limit of what you can bear. Only then will you achieve yourself. The dreamer comforted her with kind words, making her feel at ease. At the same time, he explained that whatever she comprehended, whether it was wisdom or power, would never be lost. Next, what should I do? She felt that an unprecedented door of cultivation was slowly opening in front of her. First, turn the holy grimoire into a bronze grimoire, and seal everything you have, including all of your power, on your guardian beast. Let her replace you, and become a demigod, while your original body will return to being a human, and cultivate from the beginning. The more you recultivate, the longer and more bitter the recultivation process, then in the end your achievements will be greater and higher. The dreamer said a method that she didn't dare to believe her own ears. At the same time, he imprinted an extremely precious recultivation secret method that no one in the outside world knew about in the depths of her soul. What if I fail to recultivate? She suddenly had a kind of worry. Only those who break free from fate will succeed. This is the ultimate transcendence of a human. If it is a human, they will be controlled by fate for their entire life. Only when a human becomes a wholly supreme and controls their own fate, then that is true success. Those who only destroy and do not create are false gods. Those who have destruction and can also create are true gods, but not wholly supreme. Only those who surpass fate and exist eternally are true wholly supreme. This path simply does not allow for failure. In the end, you must succeed, otherwise, even if you become a true god, you will still fail. This was the greatest difficulty and also the greatest pain. Even true gods would fall one day. Only the eternal wholly exalted was eternal. Do you understand? If you don't succeed in the end, then everyone below the Holy Supreme is a failure, including you, and those divine level rankers who think they are high above. If a person, in the most bitter and difficult situation, under the interference of all kinds of desires and love, still wants to become a Holy Supreme, and continues to work hard for it, then that is the most precious embodiment, and also the ultimate will of the ancient great gods. All the famous and unknown ancient great gods, they all hope that their descendants will be able to break free from fate, jump out of the most bitter situation, and step into eternity. What we need to do is to carry out this will. This is the reason why we can have summoning grimoires. This is the reason why summoning grimoires exist. The dreamer said a secret that was close to heaven's secrets. Like this? She was stupefied. Not only her, even Yu Yang, who had experienced her entire life, was stupefied. The truth was actually like this. The real goal of becoming the owner of a summoning grimoire was not to become a strong person, to satisfy one's various desires by bullying the weak, but to break free from fate, to find one's true self in eternity. In that instant, not only she who had heard this secret, but also Yu Yang, who had also experienced it now, felt their hearts expand in an instant. The world became smaller. Some kind of wisdom flashed in his mind, like a warm flow of wisdom filling his entire body and soul. He finally understood and finally knew the true meaning of life. The ultimate goal of training was to find one's eternal true self. Not the current him who was lost on the path of life, but the even higher him who was eternal in the holy supreme realm. In that completely eternal world, there would no longer be birth, old age, sickness, and death, no more suffering and misfortune. Although it was unimaginable, he believed that it would be an incomparably perfect existence. In that eternal world that belonged to his own will, he would return to his original self, and live together with everyone else. Yu Yang wanted to shout out loud. He felt that his entire life and the entire world of his soul were changing, sublimating. He had an urge to immediately start training. Don't hesitate, don't stop halfway. Eternal holy supreme realm. Transcend fate with everyone else. Only then would he not have to worry about any strong enemy attacks, or all kinds of life and death separations. I don't know how many times this kind of retraining will take. Maybe some people can do it once, maybe they need to retrain 10 times, 100 times, or even more. But I know a secret. when you reach the ultimate holy supreme realm, even if you don't have a grimoire to recognize you as its master, you will have your own grimoire. Of course, in the middle, because there are too many disturbances and damages, the seniors who protect us will definitely help us. Maybe one day the grimoire will recognize a new master, help us, and enlighten us, but no one knows when that will be. Training is full of unknowns, we need to work hard in the unknown. Even if we don't have a grimoire, we need to make our own summoning grimoire into an eternal grimoire. This is what I wanted to say at the beginning. The sleeper even pointed out an inconceivable path to success. Every summoning grimoire has the possibility of becoming a grimoire in the end? She asked. Some people train from bottom to top, some from top to bottom, and some from top to bottom. Everyone's talent is different, and their training methods are also different. Some people are fated to not be able to contract a grimoire, because they don't have the right conditions, or because of their extravagance, they have destroyed themselves. Some people who contract a grimoire are fated to not be able to cultivate, because they can't bear hardships, and they can't give up the power that they have obtained. They have already lost themselves in power, and don't know and don't believe in existences like divine level and holy supreme realm. They can't even comprehend sovereign's will. Don't think about other people. I want to say, only those who have at least comprehended sovereigns will have the qualifications to advance towards divine level. Only those who put in more effort and have the greatest talent and wisdom have the qualifications to reach the ultimate holy supreme realm. Don't think about other people, just think, are you that kind of person? Even someone as hardworking and talented as you might not be able to succeed, let alone others? Calm your heart and retrain. One day, when you truly transcend yourself, you will look back and know how much sweat and effort you have put in to finally achieve eternity. I will succeed. When she bid farewell to the sleeper, she established an unshakable confidence in her heart. This was an existence that surpassed her sovereign's will. Finally, I want to say this. The sleeper suddenly called out to her. "HM?" She was very curious. Maybe your future will not be as lonely as it is now. Because, in the 100-Flower clan, there is a little girl who is as talented as you, and even more talented than you. She thought of a secret method. If she succeeds, not only the heaven stairway, but the whole Tong Tian Tower will rise again. Even I can't see through that little girl's wisdom. Maybe one day you will realize that behind you, not only is there a little sister running happily, laughing like a bell, there is also a little boy whose shoulders can support the whole world. Maybe this is my dream, maybe it will come true. Who knows what the future will be like? Is that so? Her little face suddenly blossomed with a kind of joy that she had never seen before. Her eyes flashed with a radiance that could even make the stars in the sky lose their splendor. Then let us work hard in this direction together. Chapter 1277. The wish was still unsuccessful. However, after the failure of the secret technique of the little girl from the 100 Flowers sect, everyone finally understood a fact. The wishing flower tree, whether it was a law or some kind of restriction, or a curse of some god-level power, could no longer give birth to a male baby. In other words, no matter how hard the descendants worked, there would not be a male successor who could inherit and control the entire stairway to heaven. Mother! She felt sad when she heard the news. However, she did not feel depressed because of this blow. She, who had the will of the sovereign, worked even harder. Because she decided to shoulder the responsibility of her younger brother, who would never appear again, the hope of her mother, aunt, and other relatives, and the inheritance of all lives in the stairway to heaven on her own shoulders. She wanted to become the sovereign, establish a unique and unparalleled sovereign, revive the stairway to heaven, and revive the Tower of Babel. This was her new goal. In the past few hundred years, she had traveled under the starry skies of various unit worlds or dimensional world. She had observed and understood all life forms. Through various methods and the divine eyes that could see through all truths, she explored the secrets of all life forms and the truth of the world. At the same time, she used this to enrich her wisdom, worldview, and awareness of life. Sometimes, a lonely little flower, a cluster of flourishing weeds, or a crawling little bug could give her a lot of inspiration. It was not just the growth from battles, all the experiences were a kind of improvement, and this kind of improvement was a kind of subtle growth. Wait until one day, when he looked back, he was shocked to discover that he had unknowingly crossed new realms one after another. He had killed the curse which king in the demon abyss of pain, listened to the elven song in the moonlight forest, walked over thousands of miles of yellow sand under the scorching hot sun, and looked up at the starry sky in the lonely cold night. Time flowed like water, without a trace. He had fought fiercely with the ancient experts who had broken through the seal on the top of the mountains for 3 days and 3 nights, razing everything within 100 miles to the ground. He had fought hard with thousands of himself in the gate of life for nearly a month. His exhausted eyes reflected his stubbornness and unshakable fighting spirit. He had once stood in the Khanate palace and intimidated the heroes of the world. With his own will, he had created a heavenly decree that no one dared to disobey. He had also stood under the heaven stairway and world tree, climbing up step by step, comprehending the various inheritances of the seniors and increasing his own wisdom. She didn't know when she would stop cultivating like this, day and night. He just knew. The divine level was still far away. It was as if the divine level was within his reach, and the closer he got to it, the more profound and mysterious it seemed. One day, she returned to the valley of life that she was accustomed to living in, and there was an extremely obedient little girl waiting silently beneath the tree of life. Even though she seemed to be very young, she possessed a bearing of her own, and she stood out from the masses. Moreover, she was intelligent, charming, and plump, and it caused her who'd seen a myriad of geniuses with her divine eyes to exclaim with admiration and be delighted. "Are you that young lady from the 100 Flowers lineage?" She felt that although the young lady in front of her was young, her intelligence was not below her own. "Supreme Being, you must be referring to my sister." This young lady with bright eyes and a sweet smile called herself Hua Xian, and said that she was sent by her sister to bring the good news to Supreme Being. What's the good news? She felt strange. All these years, she hadn't heard of any great news happening in the heaven stairway. Suddenly, she had a thought. A spiritual light flashed. She blurted out, "Your sister succeeded? A baby boy was born under the praying?" The young lady called Hua Xian smiled slightly, nodded obediently, and replied, "Yes, although he wasn't born from the wishing flower tree, my sister placed her inheritance and the life prayer on a baby from the Eastern True Dragon clan. With the protection of the Eastern Immortal clan's primordial spirit, the little baby will definitely grow up smoothly." What about the curse? She didn't quite understand how this Hua Xian's sister managed to fuse the inheritance and the life prayer on a baby from the Eastern True Dragon clan. Would the elusive Eastern Immortal clan agree to it? Even if they agreed, how did that big sister Hua Xian find them? Not to mention Tong Tian Tower, even in the heaven realm, there was no trace of the Eastern Immortal clan. How did she succeed in accomplishing such a feat? The Eastern Immortal clan had always been xenophobic. They didn't care about those who didn't have their own bloodline inheritance. How could they agree to this kind of bloodline inheritance? Even so, how could the almost undetectable god's curse that had existed for thousands of years be resolved? "Sister, there's an unwavering and loyal guard who's willing to use his son to replace the ancient curse. Moreover, the little baby will grow up under the care of the Eastern Immortal clan, and will only be summoned when he fully grows up." The young lady called Hua Xian explained one by one. Will it really succeed? She felt extremely surprised. Although it wasn't her own brother, but the inheritance of the 100 Flowers clan, with such a boy, the heavy burden on her shoulders should be lifted. Perhaps, one day, she might be able to stand in front of her mother and aunt like she did in the past, and her sister would still be laughing and joking like before, running behind her. Yes. The young lady called Hua Xian nodded firmly. What do you need me to do? She felt that this young lady Hua Xian should have another purpose for coming here, and it wasn't as simple as just reporting the good news. Elder sister said that she wants to ask you to be his guidance teacher, to watch over and guide the little baby's growth. Why doesn't she take care of him herself? This elder sister said that she is not a combat-type expert like you, so she can't teach the little baby's cultivation well. She also promised the Eastern Immortal Clan a condition that she can't directly watch over and guide the little baby's growth, and can only be a mother in name. Most importantly, elder sister has already inherited the ancient wisdom, and she wants to enter the gods' ruins to comprehend it. In the future, she might not come back, and will cross the heaven realm, and directly ascend to the Eastern Clan's world. If Ji Zun doesn't agree, Hua Xian alone is really confused, and doesn't know what to do. The young lady called Hua Xian pleaded weakly. She has already comprehended the divine level? She can even enter the gods' ruins to comprehend. She was shocked when she heard this. That young lady from the 100 Flowers clan was actually an even more outstanding genius than her, a Ji Zun? Elder sister left her divine grimoire behind, but Hua Xian can't accept it, because it is elder sister's painstaking effort. Hua Xian mentioned the divine grimoire. Sure enough, there is an existence more outstanding than me? She smiled. The heavy and invisible pressure in her heart instantly disappeared without a trace. It turned out that there was a young lady from the 100 Flowers clan in this world, who was more outstanding than her, more talented, more intelligent and more perceptive. Heaven's Stairway or Tong Tian Tower, they didn't need her to support them alone, and she didn't need to work hard alone. Other than big sister Hua Xian, there was also him who had already been born and was still growing. He was the younger brother who had been entrusted with the wishes of his mother and aunt but was unable to descend. He was the little man who would be able to take over the Heaven's Stairway and stand proudly in Tong Tian Tower when he grew up. The bloodline of the Yi clan, the bloodline of the 100 Flowers, the bloodline of the Butterfly, and the bloodline of the Bright Moon which she was in, everyone had been working hard. She wasn't the only one fighting alone. She might have been in the past, but she definitely wouldn't be in the future. Because she had them, and that him, the one who had become her younger brother but might become her disciple. All right, I promise you. I promised her in her sleep that we would work hard together. Go back and tell your sister, and thank her for bringing me such good news. She smiled, suddenly feeling that there was no longer a trace of pressure on her shoulders, and the whole world became light and lively. Her cultivation that had been stuck in a bottleneck also instantly broke through, and like a spiritual spring, she entered a whole new realm. Thank you, Ji Zun. Hua Xian also has to work hard. When the little baby grows up, he will definitely be very lonely if he is alone. Then, Hua Xian will think of a way to give him a few younger sisters. I believe that with younger sisters by his side, he will definitely not feel lonely. The young lady called Hua Xian let out a happy laughter that was as clear as a wind chime. When she left, she kept muttering to herself. Occasionally, she would also laugh softly. It was as if that cute little head of hers had thought of a good idea. Mother, Aunt, did you hear that? Not only me, everyone is working hard. Please continue to protect us. Only in Xing Tianxia, under your watch, can we not be lonely and can grow up in peace. Yu Yang, who could empathize with them, understood everything now. He understood everything. Even though he had never seen that mother, even until now, he still did not know her voice and smile, nor did he know how she prayed, or how she summoned him from his original world, or what kind of relationship he had with that old Taoist. But he already knew one thing, and that was that as an orphan, He had a mother. There was someone who doted on him, and it was someone who had always been watching over him and caring for him. There was no need to care about blood relations, and there was no need to care about the worldly concept of mother-son relationship. There was no need to care about what kind of wish it was. There was no need to care about raising it. As long as there was a little, she was the existence that created him. In his soul, everything about her life was also inherited. Actually, she was not the only mother. There were many other people, such as Ji Zun's mother, her aunt, her who was sleeping in her dreams, the intelligent little girl who had turned into the gentle fourth mother, as well as many guardians whom she knew or did not know. They could all be counted as mothers. It was them who prayed and created his existence together. Through another life form, with the bloodline of the Eastern clan as the foundation, with endless inheritance and wisdom as the guide, he became himself. Until the end of eternity. This was the process of his life and the direction of his future. I understand, I finally understand. Yu Yang slowly opened his eyes, and found that everything had disappeared without a trace. He had returned to the side of the bright lake on the 1,000,000th step of the heaven stairway, back in front of Ji Zun, who had used her divine sense to guide him to fuse with her entire life and all of her wisdom. He couldn't help but turn around and tightly hug this lonely and strong Ji Zun, this beautiful master that he had always wanted to hug but did not dare to do so. Not only did he hug her, he even kissed her passionately. He kissed her small forehead that was as clear as jade, kissed her slender and delicate eyebrows, kissed her long and curvy eyelashes, kissed her crimson cheeks, and kissed her pink cherry lips that were trembling in shock and could not speak. In the realm of consciousness that was guarded by Ji Zun's willpower, as if he had broken through the mirror lake, this was the first time since she was born that there was such a rude and bold him who had broken through everything and entered her heart. Furthermore, he had naturally fused with her soul as one. Perhaps from the day he was born, or even before he was born, he was destined to have a day like today where his soul and life were connected to hers. The heavenly Tao was vast and boundless, and it controlled the universe. In the star-sand world, who knew the truth behind it? Chapter 1278. Western Heaven Realm, Shi-He Territory, Ling Yun Country. The ruins of Rizhao City. We finally made it. Sky Execution, Dragon Emperor and Emperor of the Underworld, who had been rushing frantically after receiving the news of the Heaven Realm's expedition, finally arrived at the space-time crack where they could secretly return to Tong Tian Tower. If it was the first time they entered Heaven Realm, with their strength, it would be impossible to complete such a long-distance continuous teleportation. However, after experiencing many life and death situations, they had improved a lot. Although they were not as good as Yu Yang, they had improved tremendously. They had been reborn and promoted to a whole new realm that they did not dare to imagine before. With their strong will and sparing no effort to teleport, they fell to the ground from exhaustion. They successfully arrived at their destination. Sky prisoner Wang Gaopeng was quietly waiting for them with a group of old men who were imprisoned in Heaven Realm until Yu Yang broke out of the prison. In fact, in the initial discussion, Sky prisoner Wang Gaopeng and others did not want Sky Execution, Dragon Emperor, Emperor of the Underworld, Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, Xue Tan Lang and Prince of Tian Luo to participate in the life and death battle of Tong Tian Tower. They could not see the future and did not know who would win in the end. How powerful was the Heaven Realm army? They felt that if all the younger generation were to participate and be annihilated in one battle, it would be better to hide a small number of outstanding younger generation and leave a seed for Tong Tian Tower to continue. However, the return of Yu Yang convinced them with his actions. Whether Yu Yang was willing to take over Tong Tian Tower or not, Sky prisoner Wang Gaopeng and the other old guys had already regarded him as the new prison emperor. Yu Yang's reason to convince them. It was very simple. There was only one sentence. Tong Tian Tower must go all out, otherwise it would be annihilated. There was no second possibility. In the face of the powerful and scheming central shrine for many years, in the face of the invading army from the entire heaven realm, if the guardians of Tong Tian Tower still had any reservations, they would definitely be annihilated. Instead of reserving strength to make a comeback, it was better to go all out. At least, the latter still had a chance of survival. There was still a sliver of possibility. We won't go back. We old bones will stay here and fight. Tong Tian Tower doesn't need us old fellows who should have followed the prison emperor into eternal rest. Its rise, its future, it all belongs to you. Heaven prisoner King Gao Peng decided to stay in Heaven Realm and look for the best opportunity to perish together with the Heaven Realm army. As for God's retribution and the others who had rushed back at the moment of the final battle, he waved his hand slightly, indicating that there was no need to persuade them. Seniors, we will be on our way. God's retribution bowed to them. This farewell. Perhaps this would be an eternal farewell, but this was also the custom of the Skysplit Tower's guardians generation after generation. Even if their bodies died, their souls would guard them. Back then, before Yu Yang had matured and the Nine Lights Heaven Queen had invaded, the old man in the demonic palace had unhesitatingly self-destructed in order to reverse the situation. If it was Sky Execution, Dragon Emperor and Emperor of the Underworld, if they saw Yi Kong, Fatty Hai and Xue Tan Lang in danger one day, they would do the same thing without hesitation. This was the sacrificial spirit of Tong Tian Tower's powerhouses, as well as their will to protect. Because it was an existence that transcended life. Tong Tian Tower had suffered many disasters. Only then could it continue to this day. Wait a minute. Sky prisoner King Gao Peng threw 3 treasures to Sky Execution, Dragon Emperor and Emperor of the Underworld. This is... Sky Execution received the divine weapon Hatred Parting that Yu Yang had left for him. In the trial grounds, before Yu Yang heroically sacrificed himself by killing a god, Yu Yang had promised this strange man that he would find the most suitable master for the divine sword in his hand. If it was in the past, Yu Yang would definitely have coveted this ancient divine sword. However, the shock that the god slaying had brought him was too much. Yu Yang was not willing to forget or erase the owner of this hatred parting sword. Hence, he decided to find the most suitable candidate for the ancient divine sword to inherit the will of the god-slaying sword and also the most suitable candidate to display the power of the hatred-parting sword. That was to gift the sword to the demonic palace's #1 madman, Sky Execution. In this world, there was no one more suitable than Sky Execution to hold the hatred parting. It was not that Yu Yang could not gain the recognition of hatred parting. But his supremacy's will was far stronger than the Slayer God's sword mind. Once it recognized a master, the memory and will of the Slayer God would be erased. If that was the case, Han Sen might as well give it to God's retribution and make him the second Slayer God. And with Sky Execution's potential, coupled with Deicide's inheritance, he would definitely be able to achieve greater achievements in the future. You are the most suitable successor, and also the little guy Yu Yang's kind intentions. However, there is not much time left for you. You only have 3 days at most. I hope that in the next 3 days, you can accept the inheritance and comprehend the new realm as much as possible. Sky Prisoner King Gao Peng told Sky Execution that there were only 3 days to comprehend. If they still couldn't obtain the greatest inheritance within 3 days, then they might not be able to make it in time for the life and death battle in Tong Tian Tower. Without the hateful parting divine sword in their hands, with just the 3 of them rushing back, how much help could they provide Yu Yang? Sky Execution held the hatred parting, and his whole body was trembling. Nervousness, excitement, and ecstasy almost knocked down him, the #1 sky demon who looked down on the world. Gently caressing the spine of Li Hin's sword, with the most pious and grateful heart, He felt the sword will left behind by his previous master who had killed a god. He felt the unique sword spirit that the divine weapon Lihan, this ancient divine sword, had created bit by bit over the endless years. At the same time, he also expressed his wish, stated his will, and showed his extraordinary supreme will from the bottom of his heart. Boom, in an instant, Sky Execution, whose mind resonated with the sword spirit, fell into the endless memory of the sword. At this moment, he not only saw the birth of hatred parting, but also saw the cultivation, comprehension, and battle of the previous master, deicide, when he was alive. Also at this moment, Sky Execution felt that his heart was beating together with the heart of the strange man named deicide. The rhythm of their heartbeats became more and more similar, and finally merged into one. There was no difference. Different from Sky Execution, who had inherited deicide's hatred parting sword, what the Dragon Emperor got was not a divine weapon, but the demon-subduing pestle of an Eastern Goblin tribe senior. This is a special treasure, completely different from the divine weapon that has endless power and is loyal to its master. It not only has a strong killing power, but it is also a double-edged sword that can hurt both the enemy and the user. You have to think carefully. Holding this weapon that was enlightened by an Eastern powerhouse, you must have no demons in your heart. Otherwise, the first person it will kill will be yourself. Sky Prisoner King Gaopeng looked at the Dragon Emperor seriously. Your predecessor used it once and killed both the enemy and himself. This is the killing will of this demon-subduing pestle. As a traitor of the Eastern Goblin tribe, there is no day that I don't want to return to the right path. Even if it can only be used once, it is my dream to be able to return to myself. The Dragon Emperor took the demon-subduing pestle respectfully, and held the treasure high above his head to show his respect and worship to the predecessor and the super powerhouse who enlightened the treasure. It was the Emperor of the Underworld who got it. This was the quasi-divine weapon Sky Prison, that Sky Prisoner King Gaopeng personally gave to him. This was already the most powerful treasure that Sky Prisoner King Gaopeng could provide. In order to increase the power of the younger generation, and to completely free himself, he took out the ultimate treasure that originally belonged to him. This is the only thing I can do. I have to say, as a predecessor, I have failed. Gaopeng smiled bitterly and shook his head. No. The Emperor of the Underworld held the quasi-divine weapon, Sky Prison, and his knees, which had never knelt before, were moved to the ground. His eyes, which had never shed tears before, had 2 lines of tears that he thought only cowardly humans would cry. Yu Ming, now I can completely understand your intention. Moreover, the Netherworld knows his own limitations. With his own natural endowments, it's impossible for him to obtain the acknowledgement of the divine weapon. This is the most suitable for me. Senior, one day in the future, when the Netherworld has to return to the underground, the Netherworld promises you that I will definitely find the best junior and let him inherit your will. Haha, as long as you don't blame us old people for being stingy. There are still 3 days, work hard. This is all we can do to help. I don't know what kind of future that little guy will lead you to. In any case, I wish you good luck. Sky Prisoner King Gaopeng laughed loudly. Turning around, he stood with the old men, and very politely saluted Sky Execution, Dragon Emperor, and Emperor of the Underworld, who were immersed in the sword essence. Just like the experts of Tong Tian Tower, they saluted each other. At this moment, they were no longer the respected predecessors of the younger generation, but a group of comrades who fought side by side to protect Tong Tian Tower. In the laughter, they floated away. The future that belonged to them might not come again, but they, who were determined to perish together with the enemy, would forever be remembered in history. Whether it was thousands of years later, or if later generations had long forgotten, but the historical marks of their existence and battles could never be erased. Generation after generation of guardians, some of them might have left their names in the annals of history, while some of them might have been unknown, but what they did and what they protected were the same. There might be gaps in their memories and they might be forgotten. But history would not treat these warriors differently. Whether they were famous for thousands of years or unknown, they were all warriors of Tong Tian Tower, and were part of the will that carried on history. Life was not determined by length, and ability was not determined by strength. Everyone. They were all bright stars shining with endless glory in the sky. It was them that embellished the long river of history with their memories. Under the ancient pine of Tong Tian Tower's soaring dragon continent, the Eastern Palace Master, who looked like a middle-aged scholar, suppressed his anger and examined his chessboard. He, who had calculated everything, found that his chess position had changed again. This change was extremely small and did not seem to affect the overall situation. However, what annoyed him the most was that this change was beyond his expectations. It made him feel extremely unaccustomed and disgusted by the fact that it was out of his control. They were obviously chess pieces that were controlled by him. How could they jump out of the control of the chess player, who was helping these pitiful chess pieces in the dark? If there was no one behind the scenes, it was impossible for chess pieces to go beyond the chess position. Then who was this person? Could it be that Jizun of the temple who was ready to take advantage of the situation? He couldn't be that stupid, right? At such a critical moment, would they give Skysplit Tower a chance to catch its breath? Impossible. Jizun of the temple, whose ultimate goal was to seize God's ruins, would never do this. Tong Tian Tower must be completely destroyed, otherwise, no one would be able to seize God's ruins. If it was not him, then who? Jin Di? No, Jin Di had already left. Then who could it be? Monster Emperor? A monster emperor who was so deeply hidden that even he could not figure out his thoughts. Was he secretly helping him? Or was it that Jizun who seemed to be in harmony but was always trying to seize power from his hands? This old man was actually more suspicious. No matter who it is, as long as they are in my game, they are all chess pieces. They cannot turn the tables, not even that heaven-defying Titan Yu. The first hall master of the Dongfang clan let out a cold laugh as his eyes regained their calmness and confidence. This was because he had secretly placed another chess piece in the chessboard. Chapter 1279. Divine General Tian Kuei was one of the best among the 18 divine generals. No matter in terms of strength or intelligence, they were all above the divine generals. The only one who could truly suppress him was the doyen from the previous generation who had existed since the founding of the city. He was a divine general Ziwei whose cultivation realm was unknown. When his comrades requested to fight against Titan Yu's family, clan, teammates, forces or vassal clans, he didn't make a sound. He didn't have the intention to fight at all, because he knew that this kind of mission would definitely not bring him any benefit. No matter if he succeeded or failed, he would be firmly pinned to the hatred of Titan Yu, the new prison emperor. From the bottom of his heart, he wasn't willing to become enemies with a terrifying opponent like Titan Yu. A young man that required Palace Master Dongfang to scheme against, who had not even matured yet, had already shaken the entire central shrine. Titan Yu, who was not even a god tier, was already able to cause fear in the hearts of all the god tier rankers. Was it really a good thing that he was about to offend such a person and face such an opponent? Maybe in this battle, Titan Yu would be defeated for a while. However, this battle didn't mean that it would be Titan Yu's last battle in his life. On the contrary, this battle might be the catalyst for Titan Yu to completely change into a god tier. If such a god-level avenger really became his mortal enemy in the future, would he still have a good life in the future? Asking me to kill his fiancée? I'm not stupid. However, when Divine General Tian Kuei assigned him the mission of intercepting Titan Yu's fiancée, he didn't object. Instead, he acted like he was obedient and carried out the order. It was impossible to fight against Palace Master Dongfang, But it didn't stop him from making small changes in the process of carrying out the mission. For example, not meeting the target halfway? He threw dozens of Heaven Realm soldiers into different levels of Tong Tian Tower, letting these idiots hide and casually attack any target they met. He would pretend to patrol around, cleverly and coincidentally avoiding every target. He definitely wouldn't fight against Titan Yu's fiancée. No matter how strong these women were, or how weak they weren't people he was willing to provoke. When Princess Sisai and the rest killed the Heaven Realm soldiers and rushed to Tong Tian Tower's 9th floor, Divine General Tian Kuei slowly chased after them. When he reached Tong Tian Tower's 7th floor, he felt that it was still too early to catch up. He might as well support Tianqing. Tianqing wasn't an idiot, but running to Charm Demon Palace was definitely a mistake. Charm Demon Palace was the birthplace of Yu Taitan's lover, Sky Law. If Tianqing was ruthless, he would definitely attract Sky Law's attention. If Tianqing couldn't beat Sky Law, that would be fine. But if he killed Sky Law, he would probably die a horrible death. For the time being, he hadn't discovered any good ending for opponents who offended Titan Yu. Was the peerless genius of Tong Tian Tower really that easy to bully? Although the Dongfang First Palace Master had unparalleled chess talent and could even dominate a god, Tian Chief didn't look too favorably on this battle. It wasn't that the Dongfang First Palace Master couldn't win, he would definitely win, but he probably didn't have enough strength to kill that Titan Yu. If he could easily kill Titan Yu, why would the Dongfang First Palace Master need to go to such lengths to invite experts from all over? Why would he use the god's ruins to plot against Titan Yu? Moreover, Jizun of the Deity Temple didn't have absolute confidence and was still hiding behind. This proved that Titan Yu's fate wasn't over yet. He wouldn't be easily eliminated in this battle. As the new prison emperor and Conquest Queen's disciple, how could Titan Yu not have someone behind him? If Conquest Queen reappeared, and the unparalleled emperor who was seen as the main ally turned against them, the entire situation would collapse. Hence, before the situation was clear, he couldn't make Titan Yu his enemy. Killing Titan Yu's woman, and making Titan Yu chase him for 10,000 years was something Divine General Tian Kuei wouldn't do before he became retarded. When Divine General Tian Kuei arrived at the Charm Demon Palace in Dream Swirling Valley, he was shocked to find that Divine General Tianqing, who was supposed to start a massacre here, had disappeared. Strange, could it be that Tianqing was killed by Titan Yu's little lover, Skylaw? But that timid and cautious fellow didn't seem like an impulsive fool. He originally wanted to cooperate with him, but he didn't expect it to be like this. What exactly happened? In this battlefield that had collapsed after a fierce battle, there were only a few young people. Divine General Tian Kuei, who had previously gathered relevant information, could tell at a glance that these were Titan Yu's teammates. The fatty was called Haida Fu, the energetic one was called Yikong, and the cold one was called Shui Tanlang. He was the younger brother of Titan Yu's most capable and most resourceful fiancée, Shui Wuxia. The handsome young man was called Hua Ziyu, the little prince of Tianluo Kingdom. The other two twin brothers should be the Li brothers. Regardless of their background, it was undeniable that under Titan Yu's leadership and guidance, they had all grown up. They were all opponents that couldn't be underestimated. If this battle hadn't come so early, these young people would have become unimaginable if they had a few hundred years to slowly grow up. However, with their current strength, it shouldn't be enough to kill Divine General Tianqing. What happened in between? Another golden-shelled insect. Everyone, don't fight with me. I'll beat him up. Let me burst his sexy little anus. Fatty Hai shouted as he rushed over and swung his hippo meteor fist at Divine General Tian Kuei. Shameless boasting. Divine General Tian Kuei felt that with this kind of strength, he could still fight a few Heaven Realm soldiers, but he wanted to burst him? What a joke. He didn't look down on his opponent like the Sun God General did, nor did he extend a finger to block the attack. Even though one finger was enough, Divine General Tian Kuei still used a third of his divine strength to forcefully break through Fatty Hai's Hippo Meteor Fist. The meteor-like fists smashed back at his opponent's annoying fat face. 1 punch, 2 punches, 3 punches. The meteor-like fists all smashed back at Fatty Hai's own face. Before Fatty Hai could fall to the ground in pain, Divine General Tian Kuei extended his hand and rained down punches on Fatty Hai, imitating Fatty Hai's hippopotamus and starfish punches as he returned the favor. Fatty Hai was hit so hard that he couldn't fly out and was directly drowned by the rain of fists. Compared to Fatty Hai, Divine General Tian Kuei's imitation of Hippo Meteor Fist was faster and more concentrated. Yi Kong and the others were dumbfounded. Wasn't this Fatty Hai's ultimate move? Why did this Divine General who had just run over know it too? Could it be that this guy's inherent skill was imitation? After all, the Hippo Meteor Fist was created by Yu Yang based on Fatty Hai's personal characteristic. Other than Fatty Hai, no one else could use it well. After fighting alongside Fatty Hai for so long, he had never seen anyone who could use the Hippo Meteor Fist. This Divine General who had just run over was able to do it exactly the same as Fatty Hai, or even faster and better. It was truly an inconceivable fact. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed it. Fatty Hai was also baffled. He endured the pain and crawled up from the ground. Before he could speak, he saw countless fists coming at him like meteors, and he was drowned in the rain of fists again. After fighting for an unknown amount of time, Fatty Hai was beaten down at least 10 times before Divine General Tian Kuei stopped temporarily. "Can you not hit my face?" Fatty Hai's head was now completely swollen like a pig's. Divine General Tian Kuei's attack just now only had one target in mind. That was Fatty Hai alone. Yi Kong and the others. They had been watching from the sidelines with their mouths agape. They couldn't interfere, nor were they attacked. They were just a passing audience. Where's Tian Cheng? When Divine General Tian Kuei saw that Fatty Hai was about to turn and run, he immediately threw a barrage of fists at him. It was as if he couldn't get the answers he wanted without killing Fatty Hai first. His fists rained down on Fatty Hai like raindrops. Under such attacks, even Fatty Hai, whose skin was as thick as a dead pig's, wouldn't be able to withstand it. Most importantly, Divine General Tian Kuei's main target was his fat face. He didn't look that good in the first place, but he still hit him with his fist. It was useless for Fatty Hai to run. Begging was also useless. Stop! In the end, he was completely enraged. When he got up again, he suddenly puffed out his chest, put one hand on his waist, and pointed his right hand at Divine General Tian Cheng like a spear. He cursed, "Enough! Even if you're jealous of my good looks, you shouldn't do this. I know, and I understand, how sad and envious you are right now, but it's not my fault that I'm handsome. How can you treat me like this? I almost thought you were a good person just now, but I didn't expect you to be so narrow-minded." Divine General Tian Kuei didn't have much of a reaction when he heard this, but Yi Kong and Xue Tan Lang's expressions changed drastically. They looked like they wanted to vomit but couldn't. The enemy was right in front of them. "Hold it in." Yi Kong clenched his fists tightly and decided to pretend that he was deaf and didn't hear anything. However, Fatty Hai's next words were really unbearable to him. This was because Fatty Hai had said, "You don't have any self-awareness. You can learn from Monkey Yi, who is like a green leaf beside me and even more like a clown. He's so ugly, so evil, so intolerable, yet he didn't make a sound, nor did he hate me out of jealousy. What's wrong with you? If you're not good-looking, you should reflect on yourself. You can also learn humbly and cautiously to improve your inner qualities to make up for your lack of appearance. But you're so murderous like a butcher. If others don't know, they might even shout at you, 'Pork man, give me 2 caddies of pork belly?' Who do you think you can scare? Can you even be considered a protagonist in life with your looks? Why don't you have any awareness? You're just a pebble on the side of the road. If you're not ignored, then you'll be kicked away. Listen, the greatest contribution you can make in life is to let others step on your head and reach a higher peak. For example, like this young master right now. Yikong fell to the ground with a thud, his limbs twitching. Xue Tanlang had already plugged his ears. Prince of Tianluo. He also turned his head to look elsewhere with an expression that said, I definitely don't know him. Even Divine General Tian Kuei, who was originally expressionless and cold like a block of ice, was moved. He punched Fatty Hai into the air, then leaped up high, flipped over, and slashed heavily at Fatty Hai's stomach with a whirlwind kick. When Fatty Hai crashed down like a meteor, Divine General Tian Kuei grabbed his legs the instant his lower body hit the ground, pulling him away from the broken rocky ground and slamming him onto a rock beside him. Without waiting for Fatty Hai to struggle, Divine General Tian Kuei had already grabbed him by the back of his neck. With his other fist, he gave Fatty Hai a good beating. Even after beating him up, he still felt that it wasn't enough to vent his anger. He then threw the mud like Fatty Hai onto the ground and stomped on him a few hundred times. He waited until the pile of rotten meat on the ground looked as if it had been run over by 100,000 buffaloes. Only then did he stop, panting slightly. Divine General Tian Kuei calmed his breathing and tried his best to suppress his anger. He regained his cool. Do you know why I insisted on hitting you first? It's because you're despicable. There's no way to describe you anymore. You were born to deserve a beating. I'm doing justice for the heavens by hitting you. If I didn't do that, or if I didn't hit you hard enough, that would be going against the heavens. I've never seen someone like you who doesn't know what's good for him. If I don't beat someone like you to death, there's no justice in the world. I hate you because I'm jealous of you? I'm 100 times more handsome than you. Don't be angry. It's not worth hurting your body over this kind of person. Yikong consoled sympathetically. F***ck, are you just going to watch this young master get beaten up and not help? Fatty Hai spat out a mouthful of blood and got up to angrily scold Yikong and the others. What kind of teammates are you? We're helping reason, not family. Yikong spread his hands, indicating that teammates like Fatty Hai were not worth helping at all. Who are you? The Li brothers surrounded him and looked left and right, but they couldn't recognize who this bloody pig head belonged to. Jealousy. You're all jealous of this young master. Fatty Hai sneered. He finally understood. In this day and age, teammates were unreliable. Wasn't he just a little more handsome than you guys? How dare you watch me die without helping? Can I cut off his fat and fry it? Divine General Tian Kuei was going crazy. How shameless must he be to form such a person? Do as you please. You don't have to be polite with us. Yikong hurriedly waved his hands. Can you give us 2 caddies of fried oil? The Li brothers felt that Fatty Hai's life value was only so much. You underestimate me. Do you think you can beat me, the #1 pillar of Tong Tian Tower, and also known as the Jade-Faced Flying Dragon, with just a few punches and 3 kicks? I held back just now. Seeing that you're a guest, I'll let you have 3 moves. Otherwise, do you really think you can beat me? How dare you hit this young master's most beloved and most handsome face? You must be tired of living. Owu, I have no choice but to use my ultimate move. A golden light flashed in Fatty Hai's eyes, and a strong aura burst out from his body, as if he wanted to devour the heaven and earth. Divine General Tian Kuei's heart trembled. He didn't dare to let his guard down, and hurriedly raised his full strength and focus. Fatty Hai shot into the sky. He seemed to want to destroy the heavens and earth with his ultimate move. Divine General Tian Kuei was very nervous. He had to focus on dealing with Fatty Hai's ultimate move, and also defend against Yikong and the others' pincer attack. His expression was serious for the first time. In the end, what kind of shocking ultimate move would this unkillable Fatty use? He had already comprehended supreme will at such a young age, and obtained domain power and innate ability from it. What kind of manifestation would it be? Although his mouth was cheap, this damn fatty still had strength, and he believed that his innate ability wouldn't be bad either. Otherwise, how could he be Titan Yu's teammate? How could he be accepted by peerless geniuses like Yi Kong and Xue Tanlang? Even if Fatty Hai wasn't a genius, he could still be called a genius. Therefore, he couldn't be careless with this move. He had to receive this move without suffering any damage. Come on. No matter what ability you have, you can't break through the divine power defense of a divine general of the central shrine. Divine General Tian Kuei's eyes spewed out high fighting spirit and fighting spirit. Of course, he did not lose his rationality and caution. If the situation turned for the worse, he would not fight recklessly just because he was a divine general because he wanted to save face. Let me take on your ultimate move. Divine General Tian Kuei, who felt that he was ready, focused 100% of his attention on Fatty Hai above him, who knew that Fatty Hai would clap his hands like a clumsy fat duck, shake his butt, and fly away from the sky with a whoosh, completely disregarding the feelings of the people below. Upon seeing this bizarre scene, Divine General Tian Kuei felt like his heart was in a mess, as though 3,000 legendary divine beasts were galloping over and whizzing past him. What happened to the ultimate move? Damn, can this kind of person even be considered a warrior? No, can this kind of person even be considered a person? Shameless Fatty, can you be any more shameless? He was dumbfounded for a long time. Divine General Tian Kuei came back to his senses and looked at Yi Kong sympathetically. Well, I suddenly understand how you feel. It's really a painful thing to have such a teammate. If I had such a teammate, I would definitely beat him to death and revive him, then bury him alive, burn him to ashes, mix him with urine, and finally throw him into the sea to feed the fishes. After saying that, he thought about it again. Perhaps this wasn't enough to vent his hatred, but he really couldn't think of a better way to deal with it. He could only sigh helplessly. Maybe I'll cry for 3 days and 3 nights. Anyway, it's a headache. Actually, what I really feel is like crying but no tears come out. Yi Kong honestly said what was in his heart. Divine General Tian Kuei was speechless. He secretly rejoiced that he didn't have such a teammate around him. Otherwise, he really wouldn't be able to hang himself even if he wanted to die. After a short exchange, Divine General Tian Kuei didn't forget about the matter at hand. He looked at Yi Kong, then at Xue Tanlang and Prince of Tianluo, who were using the time to recover. His expression instantly turned cold. Can you tell me where the Divine General Tian Ho who should be fighting you here is? Yi Kong didn't say anything. Xue Tanlang, who had been sitting cross-legged on the ground, stood up. He walked over step by step, and with every step he took, a deep footprint would be left on the ground. With every step he took, the aura on his body grew stronger. When he stood next to Yi Kong, and stood in front of Divine General Tian Kuei, the entire Blood Volcano Valley behind him had turned into a world of white snow and bone-chilling wind. Chapter 1280. Divine General Tian Kuei stared at Xue Tanlang's hands. On them was a terrifying energy that could freeze all things. Not only was this energy extremely cold, but it was also infused with Xue Tanlang's sovereign will. Even though he had yet to fully mature, his paragon's will was as immovable as a mountain, and he was an existence that Divine General Tian Kuei dared not underestimate. If he was hit by this icy cold man without any preparation, the battle situation would immediately turn 180 degrees around. He inhaled, exhaled, and raised his voice. An incredibly deep roar that could suppress the entire Succubus Valley sounded like muffled thunder. The golden brilliance retracted, and Divine General Tian Kuei's body instantly transformed into a dazzling comet. Silver light erupted, drawing a long tail as it shot into the sky with unstoppable force. When the comet reached the limit of the sky, it instantly reversed. It carried a kind of return that could attract all the stars in the sky to fall together. Shatter! Yikong rushed out from the suffocating return comet above his head. His fists shot upward with the force of a volcanic eruption, and he took Divine General Tian Kuei's return comet head-on without backing down. He used his frail human body to take on Divine General Tian Kuei's attack. Yikong had already experienced many life-and-death battles and was extremely experienced. When his opponent leaped into the air, he understood the severity of the follow-up effects of this attack. For an expert at Divine General Tian Kuei's level, if he didn't use a fatal move, he would instead widen space and accelerate time infinitely. This proved that this killing move was the most terrifying move of all. The longer time passed, the greater the power of the transformation. By the time the star explosion returned and smashed into the ground, no one would be able to survive the full power of this move. It was like an egg hitting a stone. The leaping Yikong was hit by the unstoppable return comet. In less than 1,000th of a second, he was already bounced back down. His entire body fell to the ground 10 times faster than when he leaped up. A large piece of the ground disappeared without a sound. Then, a shock wave erupted, and the sphere rapidly expanded, shattering the surrounding space. A second later, a mushroom cloud rose from where Yikong had fallen. With Yikong's current strength, there was no way he could stop Divine General Tian Kuei's star explosion from returning. This was like throwing an egg at a rock. Other than making Divine General Tian Kuei pause in midair for a moment, there was no other effect. However, right after Yikong, 2 more shadows soared into the sky at the same time. They had a tacit understanding. Similarly, he used his body of flesh and blood to forcefully withstand the high-speed, falling star explosion. Although he was also repelled and followed in Yikong's footsteps, Divine General Tian Kuei, who was at the center of the star explosion return, unexpectedly felt a ripple in his mind. Freezing storm. A huge tornado erupted from Xue Tanlang's feet, carrying him as he charged towards the star explosion that had stopped in midair. In this storm that could freeze everything, the high-speed falling comet actually slowed down inconceivably. The entire Succubus Valley seemed to have been frozen. Xue Tanlang's sovereign will, which he had comprehended from the gate of life and death, could even freeze space and time. There is a huge gap between ideals and reality. Sometimes, sacrifice and friendship do not equal success. Strength is everything. As the star explosion slowed down, just as it was about to be completely frozen by the freezing storm, Divine General Tian Kuei, who was at the center, rushed out of the light. He stuck half of his body out and waved his arms like a meteor. His fists shattered everything. Even Xue Tanlang's sovereign will was smashed by this pair of fists. Then, the fists landed directly on Xue Tanlang's chest and lower abdomen. Xue Tanlang's body was unharmed on the surface, but behind him, the ground exploded with a huge explosion that was 10 times more terrifying than the one caused by Yikong and the Li brothers' forceful attack on the star explosion. The shock wave swept through the ground, instantly turning the rocky hills below into dust. At the same time, it also gnawed on the ground, leaving 2 deep holes that were about 100 meters deep and almost bottomless. The light in Xue Tanlang's eyes instantly disappeared. Emptiness and annihilation filled Xue Tanlang's eyes. His body slowly fell to the ground. His hands fell limply to the ground. During the process of falling, fresh blood gushed out from the corner of his mouth. With one move, the super genius whose strength was second only to Yu Yang was instantly killed by the enemy. This was even under the premise that Yikong and the Li brothers had sacrificed themselves first. It was still unavoidable for them to end up like this. Ah no! Prince Tian Luo rushed forward crazily. His entire body turned into a meteor made of heavenly fire, crashing towards Divine General Tian Kuei, who was in the sky. Listen up, kids. Don't even think about playing any tricks in front of me. Divine General Tian Kuei stretched out his hand and grabbed Prince Tian Luo's throat, lifting him into the air. Prince Tian Luo, who wanted to perish together with his enemy, could not even struggle, much less self-destruct. At this moment, he finally understood the difference between him and his enemy. In the sky, a mountain-like black shadow descended. It landed heavily on Divine General Tian Kuei's head. At the same time that Divine General Tian Kuei was attacked, the sky suddenly turned into a sea. A huge whirlpool swallowed the entire star explosion formed by Divine General Tian Kuei's energy. A pair of slender jade hands reached out from the void. Like daggers, they stabbed towards Divine General Tian Kuei's eyes. Divine General Tian Kuei, who was being attacked, smiled. He lowered his head. The gigantic fist of the black figure that was as heavy as a mountain brushed past his cheeks in an unimaginable manner and smashed heavily onto Prince of Tian Luo's body instead. The pair of jade-like hands that were stabbing towards his eyes were guided by the power of a star explosion and accelerated, stabbing heavily into the mountain-like black figure's body, almost piercing through that gigantic black figure from the front to the back. A golden fist instantly appeared in front of him. In a 10,000th of a second, it turned into thousands of light pillars and attacked the defenseless Divine General Tian Kuei. This attack was the true fatal attack. Previously, Yi Kong, the Li brothers, Xue Tan Lang, Prince of Tian Luo, and even the jade-like hands and the black shadow were all a cover-up. They were willing to sacrifice their lives for this final success. It was like an attack from a solar storm, and it was a sneak attack. By the time Divine General Tian Kuei reacted, it was already too late. Go to hell! Divine General Tian Kuei heard a familiar voice roar beside his ear. Then, his entire comet-like body was submerged in the solar storm's bombardment. The solar storm swept across the world and was unable to restore the normal spatial order for a long time. Heaven and earth were overshadowed by this attack. When all the light disappeared, standing in the center, it was the previously missing Divine General Tian Kuei. It was him who had launched the fatal blow and defeated the undefeatable Divine General Tian Kuei. What was going on? Was he not a match for Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, and the others? Why would he cooperate with Xue Tan Lang and the others to kill Divine General Tian Kuei? Monkey coffin face, don't die. This young master didn't die even after being beaten so badly. Do you want to die with such a small injury? Don't die, I won't let you die. A huge and ugly black figure crawled out of the ground and frantically dug at the surrounding sand, intending to dig out Yi Kong, Xue Tan Lang, and the others who had been killed as bait and revive them. The owner of the slender hand was the storm seabird. She supported Prince Tian Kuei and found a deep hole in his chest. This was Divine General Tian Kuei's final attack. Originally, this attack was meant to kill the storm seabird, but Prince Tian Kuei sacrificed himself in exchange for the storm seabird's life. Even if he did not sacrifice himself, he had been hit by Fatty Hai's full-force attack. Most of his bones were shattered and his internal organs were heavily injured. It would be difficult for him to survive. Their sacrifice will not be in vain. Killing Tian Kuei is the beginning of our success. Divine General Tian Kuei gritted his teeth. We must leave immediately. The East will soon discover my betrayal. If you continue to be so wishy-washy, then their sacrifice will be in vain. For the final victory, sacrifice is inevitable. This is just the beginning. Perhaps, in the next battle, we will be the ones to sacrifice. Why didn't you attack earlier? It's you're the one who killed Monkey and the others. Fatty Hai grabbed Divine General Tian Kuei's collar crazily and roared uncontrollably. Without their sacrifice, without their bait, do you think I could kill Tian Kuei with my own strength? He is a divine general who is second only to Ziwei. His strength is more than 10 times stronger than the sun god general you defeated. If not for my inherent skill of exterminating weeds at the roots, I wouldn't even be able to take 3 of his attacks head-on. Calm down. If you continue like this, then they would really have died in vain. While there's still time, we must continue until that divine General Ziwei is also heavily injured by the sneak attack. Only then will we be able to be of some help to Titan Yu's great reversal. The calm divine General Tian Kuei suddenly lost control of his emotions and punched Fatty Hai to the ground. He roared angrily, "Do you know how much risk I took to cooperate with you? I basically gambled with the lives of my entire clan. My chances of success were less than 1 in 10,000, but I still chose to fight with you. Do you understand how much I sacrificed? Do you know what the consequences would be if I failed? Not only me, but my entire clan and relatives, tens of thousands of clansmen and hundreds of thousands of subordinates would all die without a burial place. I don't care. Monkey and the others didn't have to die. The plan wasn't like this. It was you deliberately changed the plan and caused their deaths." Fatty Hai's eyes were filled with tears of blood. "Do you think I wanted to? I needed 100% success rate before I could act. If I exterminate weeds at the roots, we can't even defeat Tian Kuei. How can we talk about counterattacking the East? Do you think I don't want to act? If I don't have the confidence, their sacrifices will only be in vain. Do you understand? You damned idiot young master, your life has been smooth sailing without any setbacks. Do you think that victory can be obtained without any sacrifices? In the past, there was Titan Yu, but now he's gone. You must learn to be strong and independent. Now that you're the only one left, do you want them to die with regrets? Other than crying, what else can you do?" Divine General Tian Hua kicked Fatty Hai away. The plan wasn't bad, but the assassination target was wrong. The killed Divine General Tian Kuei suddenly appeared behind Divine General Tianqing, completely unharmed. The moment he appeared, Divine General Tianqing was on the verge of breaking down. Fatty Hai and the Storm Seabird also had looks of despair on their faces. Too strong. This Divine General Tian Kuei was indeed 10 times stronger than that arrogant Divine General Sun Yang. Under such circumstances, he was still unscathed under Divine General Tianqing's fatal blow with the exterminating weeds at the root's inherent skill. This was too despairing. No, impossible. This is an illusion created by the East. Otherwise, this would never have happened. Cold sweat rolled down Divine General Tianqing's forehead. "Ha ha, Tianqing, I knew what you were up to ever since you disappeared. Great, you actually want to rebel? How crazy! A loyal and devoted immortal general actually colluded with the enemy and rebelled against his lord. I really want to know what caused you to have such a rebellious thought. Even if I don't agree with you, I have to admire your courage. Tianqing, you're definitely the greatest warrior in the history of the Central Shrine to rebel against the Master." Divine General Tian Kuei reached out and pressed down on Divine General Tianqing's shoulder. Divine General Tianqing couldn't even dodge and was pressed to the ground. Divine General Tian Kuei raised his right hand high. "Once you're done, I'll send you on your way. Out of praise for your courage, I won't report you. I'll let you have the honor of showing your loyalty. How benevolent of me. I can't help it, I'm the friend who admires you the most." Struggling was futile. Divine General Tianqing suddenly gritted his teeth and grabbed Divine General Tian Kuei's left hand that was pressing down on his shoulder. At the same time, he yelled, "Fatty Hai, are you crazy? Why aren't you leaving now? Are you waiting for everyone to die here? I'm already hopeless. You damn fatty, get out of here right now. If you're lucky enough to live until Titan Yu wins, please take care of my family. I've never begged anyone in my life, but I'm begging you now. Hurry up and leave, I don't want to die in vain. Go, don't let me die in vain." "No, I'm not leaving. I can't leave. I'll die with you here. Monkey and the rest are dead anyway, I don't want to live anymore." The shape-shifted Fatty Hai charged forward instead of retreating. Divine General Tianqing was so angry that he almost vomited blood on the spot. On the other hand, the wind-breath seabird was calm and prepared to forcefully capture him and take him away. Unexpectedly, Divine General Tian Kuei waved his right hand lightly and the space shattered. Yi Kong, Xue Tanlang, Prince of Tianluo, and the Li brothers were all thrown out. None of them were dead, but they were sealed in ice sculptures by a special kind of ice power. The corpses that had appeared earlier had turned into ice cubes, slowly fusing with Divine General Tian Kuei's divine power and returning to his body. All of you were annihilated, not a single one of you was spared. Not to mention the fact that I have enough power and time to catch you. Even if I don't, I can easily kill you all. With just the few of you, you want to play tricks in front of me? When Xue Tanlang released his aura and feigned an attack, I already knew what you were up to, so I went with the flow. Tianqing, I don't want to deny your courage, but you're still too young. You want to rebel against the Eastern Palace Master? Ha ha ha, even an old man like me can't imagine it. You're really impulsive. Divine General Tian Kuei suddenly retracted his hand and kicked Tianqing's hind leg, sending him flying 10 meters away. Then, he suddenly looked up at the sky and laughed. Fatty Hai and Divine General Tianqing looked at each other, dumbfounded. What was going on with Tian Kuei? Why did he suddenly stop killing them? Only the extremely intelligent wind-breath seabird's eyes flashed as she realized a certain possibility. Her face lit up with joy. For a moment, her tears gushed out, and she couldn't wipe them all even if she wanted to. Rebellion is such an interesting and promising matter. How could I not participate in it? You should know that even before the prison emperor battle 6,000 years ago, I already had this idea, but I didn't have the chance to carry it out. Now that I've made up my mind, I'll go crazy. Haha, aren't you surprised? See, with my participation, you have a chance of success. Otherwise, with your meager strength, you want to rebel? You want to turn the tables? What a joke. Divine General Tian Kuei's words completely dumbfounded Tianqing. It couldn't be. The one who really wanted to rebel was actually the most loyal Tian Kuei? Chapter 1281. Everyone present found it inconceivable that Divine General Tian Kuei would suddenly join them and rebel against the Eastern Temple Master. It was even more difficult to accept. In Fatty Hai's heart, he even had a malicious guess. Was this Divine General Tian Kuei planning to use the name of rebelling to sneak into the team and then become the Eastern Temple Master's eyes and ears, so that he could find Yu Yang's weakness and attack him? If not, there was no reason for this Divine General Tian Kuei to join them. First of all, he was a Divine General, second only to the Eastern Temple Master and above tens of thousands of people. The high and mighty Divine General Tian Kuei didn't need to care about anyone else's feelings aside from his loyalty to the Eastern Temple Master. If he wanted to rebel against the East, regardless of whether he would succeed or not, his life would be in danger. Everyone knew that once he rebelled, he would be opposing the East and the Central Divine Hall. Moreover, he would immediately have to fight to the death. If Yu Yang was about to defeat the Eastern Temple Master and reverse the entire situation, it wouldn't be strange for Divine General Tian Kuei to say that he wanted to rebel. The problem was that the central shrine was pressuring the Tong Tian Tower. Even if Yu Yang returned, there was no hope. Wasn't it too early for Divine General Tian Kuei to say that he wanted to rebel? Unless this guy was retarded, he wouldn't make such a crazy move that had no chance of winning. Previously, when Divine General Tian Kuei said that he wanted to cooperate with everyone and deceive the Eastern Temple Master, Fatty Hai had been suspicious and probed until that reason appeared. Only then did he reluctantly accept it. Now, Divine General Tian Kuei said that he wanted to join them and rebel against the Eastern Temple Master and the Central Shrine for no reason at all. Who the hell are you trying to fool? Fatty Hai was the first to not believe it. Why? Forget the paranoid Fatty Hai. Even Divine General Tian Kuei didn't dare to believe this was the truth. If you can rebel, why can't I? Divine General Tian Kuei laughed loudly and asked Tian Cheng, if not for that, I would have killed all of you long ago. With your strength, do you think you're worth being bullied by me? What a joke, what benefits can I get from you? Find Titan Yu or his fiancée through you, and overestimate your own abilities to participate in the war of the upper echelons? I'm not that stupid. Let me tell you, I've been watching that sword-wielding princess, Sisai's team charge forward. I won't start a war with her, nor will I start a war with Titan Yu. That's a war that belongs to the upper echelons and has nothing to do with me. I'm just a divine general, I know my limits. It's fine as long as I do my job well. This isn't enough to prove anything. Perhaps you are trying to bluff your way through and achieve some kind of goal. Perhaps you are trying to gain our trust, and then achieve some kind of ambition in Tong Tian Tower. Fatty Hai felt that no matter how exaggerated this fellow's words were, he couldn't believe him. I trust him. The first to trust Divine General Tian Kuei was the Wind Breath Seabird. She was smart. Although she did not have any special ability to see through people's minds, she had a strong intuition. If Divine General Tian Kuei really wanted to achieve some kind of goal in this team, he wouldn't need to teach everyone a lesson and scare them out of their wits before saying that he would join the team to fight against the East. He could have said it right from the start, before everyone had even made a move. That way, he would be more deceptive and have a higher chance of success. The reason why he said it after teaching everyone a lesson was a demonstration of his strength. Other than showing that he had no ill intentions, he also wanted to have the right to speak in the team and not be ostracized. It was precisely because of this that it showed that Divine General Tian Kuei was sincere in joining the team. Just like the previous Divine General Tian Ho. It was just that he did not have enough reason to convince everyone at the moment. I trust him too. Prince Tian Luo, who had returned to normal after melting, nodded slowly, affirming Divine General Tian Kuei's wishes. What? Prince, are you crazy? He killed you with a single punch just now, and you still trust him? In my opinion, this fellow is 100% a clone of the East. He's using this opportunity to sow discord or infiltrate our team to achieve some kind of goal. In any case, there must be a reason. Fatty Hai firmly disagreed. You're welcome. Xue Tan Lang expressed his attitude as though his words were gold. Fatty Hai's jaw dropped to the ground. Wasn't this coffin-faced guy's intelligence a little too low? This was clearly the enemy's scheme. I'd like to ask, what is the reason for you to rebel against the East? Yi Kong also asked cautiously. Yu Yang was not here. Although he was not in name, he had always been carrying out the responsibilities of the team's platoon leader. In the face of any threat or doubt, he had to think calmly. He could not act subjectively like Fatty Hai. That's right. Monkey, this is the first time in my life that I agree with you. Needless to say, this fellow is definitely a fake. Joining us is also a fake. Fatty Hai felt that he had finally found someone who understood him and was immediately comforted. Fool, shut up. Yi Kong felt that this fellow was only causing trouble here and had no other constructive use. The Li brothers had always been Yi Kong's supporters. The two of them stood up. Although they knew that they were no match for Tian Kuei, they still maintained their attacking stance. As long as Divine General Tian Kuei's reason did not pass, then even if they had to fight to the death, they would charge forward without any hesitation, just like how they had faced the star explosion and attacked with an egg. Yi Kong and the Li brothers' opinions were different from Fatty Hai's, Xue Tan Lang's, and Prince of Tian Luo's. They were still neutral and did not immediately acknowledge that Divine General Tian Kuei, who had spared everyone, was an ally. Divine General Tian Kuei's expression gradually turned serious. Fatty Hai almost thought that he was going to turn hostile, but who knew that in the next second, Divine General Tian Kuei would look up to the sky and laugh loudly, making everyone confused. What was so funny? Strange. Just as everyone was puzzled, Divine General Tian Kuei turned to look at Tianqing. You might know that my inherent skill is Meteor Kick. In your memory, I, Tian Kuei, am an expert in star explosion. Once I complete my attack, there is absolutely no chance of survival for the enemy. That was everyone's impression, including the omnipotent East. However, this is actually an effect that I deliberately created. My true inherent skill is not Meteor Kick, but Seize the Championship. Seize the Championship? Divine General Tianqing was stunned. What kind of inherent skill was that? My Seize the Championship inherent skill has two forms. One is to use it on the enemy. If it works, then I will definitely win. The other is if it doesn't work, then I will definitely lose. However, I can choose the second form, which is to use it on myself. In other words, I can give victory to someone else, to the person who wins in the end. For example, Titan Yu in this battle. Divine General Tian Kuei's explanation immediately enlightened Tianqing. It turned out that this cunning Tian Kuei had already chosen to use his Seize the Championship inherent skill on Titan Yu at the beginning of the battle. He realized that it was impossible for him to succeed. Under the premonition that he would definitely lose, he did not hesitate to turn around and strike back. He took the initiative to join Titan Yu's side and maintain the possibility of using his Seize the Championship inherent skill. It was no wonder that Divine General Tian Kuei had never lost a battle. It turned out that he already had two choices. First, if he succeeded in seizing the championship, he would defeat the enemy head-on. Second, if he failed in seizing the championship, he would immediately choose the winning side without hesitation. If that was the case, Tian Kuei had no chance of losing at all. Before the battle, he already vaguely knew who the final victor would be. Was there a need to worry about which side to choose? On the surface, the Eastern Palace Master seemed to have victory in his grasp. All of his plans were interlinked, and he had calculated every possibility. However, Tian Chief had betrayed him without any hesitation and sided with Titan Yu, who was still struggling in his predicament. The reason was that this fellow had long since known that Titan Yu would be the final victor of this battle. Of course, he had chosen Titan Yu. Even if Tong Tian Tower's current situation was in a hopeless predicament, what did it matter? As long as Titan Yu managed to turn the situation around and win the battle, everything was fine. Tian Kuei's innate talent was too cunning. This fellow had such an innate ability, it was simply an existence that defied the heavens. Divine General Tianqing could not help but feel jealous. If he had such an inherent skill, would he need to be scared half to death for the sake of freedom? Speaking of which, you, who dared to fight with your life on the line without making any predictions, is more worthy of recognition and respect. At the very least, I don't have your courage. Perhaps this is why you're qualified to be a divine general. Of course, I'm not the only one who has the ability to predict the outcome of a battle like mine. There should be more interesting things happening in the following battles. Divine General Tian Kuei burst into hearty laughter. You're talking about Tianji? Divine General Tianqing's heart stirred. Could it be that the most intelligent Divine General Tianji also had the ability to predict the outcome of a battle like Tian Kuei and might join the rebellion? Divine General Tian Kuei listened. He smiled without saying a word. Hey, even if you say that, you can't completely erase your suspicions, right? Fatty Hai realized that he had misjudged him. This Divine General Tian Kuei seemed to really want to join the rebellion against the Eastern camp. It was naturally a good thing that such a strong fellow joined. The problem was that his previous words were a little embarrassing, so he could only persist until the end. You can continue to doubt me with your intelligence. Yikong expressed that he could forgive Fatty Hai generously. You can say anything you want about me, but don't doubt my super high intelligence. Monkey, if you say that, I'll fall out with you. Fatty High was furious. As a man, there were two things that could never be trusted. One was a man's combat strength, and the other was his intelligence. Go ahead. Yi Kong did not care about this idiot's attitude at all. Haha. Prince Tian Luo and the Li brothers could not help but burst into laughter when they saw this scene. Even the cold and unfeeling Xue Tanlang had a smile on his face, as if spring had returned. This was the first time everyone had been so relaxed since the Heaven Realm Army's invasion. Divine General Tian Kuei's participation was not the main reason why everyone was happy. What really made everyone's hearts return to normal was this Divine General Tian Kuei's winning the championship talent. They all believed in Yu Yang. They believed that he could turn the situation around. However, if this could be verified by the enemy, it would undoubtedly be the happiest thing. Their bitter perseverance had finally paid off. Their confidence had been instantly affirmed and restored. The hope that was almost extinguished had once again appeared in front of them like a ray of light. This, of course, was worthy of everyone's joy. Victory! Yi Kong stretched out his hand towards Fatty High. The Li brothers, Prince of Tian Luo and even Xue Tanlang also stretched out their hands and placed them on top of each other. Finally, there was a slender jade-like hand that pressed on top of each other. They looked at each other and smiled tacitly. Then, they roared in unison, Tong Tian Tower will win. We will win. Chapter 1282. Tong Tian Tower. The 10th floor, the Guangming continent where the Winged Clan had lived for generations. Princess Qian Qian led the team, broke through all the obstacles, and charged all the way here in one breath. Originally, there would be millions of Heaven Realm soldiers lined up in formation waiting for them, and the great leaders of the Eastern, Northern and Western Heaven Realms would also set up a terrifying Dragon's Gate formation, waiting to challenge them. Who would have known that in reality, it wasn't like that at all. At the place where they had received urgent requests for reinforcements, the Heaven Realm army had retreated for some unknown reason, leaving behind a messy battlefield and a few enemies that Princess Qian Qian and the others had not expected. Who are you? Princess Sisai frowned slightly. According to the information, these people should not have appeared. Now, there were 6 people blocking in front of Princess Sisai. They were wearing the same style of battle clothes. It was the most special part. It was the heaven rune that was engraved with the word, Devour, on the back of their battle clothes, as the symbol of their race. Why did such a Heaven Realm race come to the Guangming continent? Why did they come? Was it for fame or for profit? They had never heard of this kind of super warriors with the Devour Heaven rune engraved on the back of their battle clothes before. What kind of special race were they? Were they mercenaries? Or were they from the hidden clan of the Heaven Realm? However, no matter what, Princess Sisai and the others could make a clear judgment, and that was, these guys definitely did not have good intentions. Actually, we have nothing to say to you. It's just that, in order to make you more afraid before you die, and to receive more shock, I have decided to tell you the truth. The one in the lead was a murderous and intimidating golden giant. His 5-meter-tall figure made him look like a mountain, giving off an unshakable sense of oppression. However, his figure was extremely slender and graceful. Not only did he not have the clumsiness of an ordinary giant, but he also had the most standard human male's body, which was even more elegant and stretched. Like many Heaven Realm rankers, this golden giant also habitually had a weapon erected in front of him. It looked like a halberd, but there was a long blood-red sickle blade at the top. With one look, one could tell that this was a demonic weapon that could easily reap lives. If he was hit by such a strange and cruel demon weapon, even if he survived, he would bleed in extreme pain and wail in pain from the wound that could not be healed. The golden giant swept a glance at Princess Sisai and the rest. Other than the Helltiger sword in Princess Sisai's hand, the other people and weapons were nothing in his eyes. On the other hand, the 5 people standing behind the golden giant showed different interest in Sickly Beauty, Yu, Drunken Cat, and Southern Demon King, who were standing behind Princess Sisai. Their lips moved slightly as if they were communicating with each other, secretly choosing their next opponent. We are the Sky Swallowing Clan. Ever since Tong Tian Tower's warriors appeared in the Heaven Realm, our clan was born. We were born to destroy Tong Tian Tower. It can be said that we are your nightmare and your natural enemy. As for me, my name is Tuwan. Ever since your conquering queen's era, I have been a sky-swallowing warrior whose life goal and responsibility is to kill Tong Tian Tower's warriors. As the golden giant spoke, he looked at the Helltiger sword in Princess Sisai's hand. Because of some special circumstances, I missed the chance to behead prison Emperor Zhan Feng. This time, I will not miss the chance to behead Titan Yu again. Of course, before beheading Titan Yu, I don't mind beheading all of you women who are Titan Yu's wives and concubines. Don't talk to me about justice and evil. Between the Sky-Swallowing Clan and the warriors of Tong Tian Tower, only death is the final destination. So, don't expect any touching words or tears to move us. It's useless. Instead of wasting your energy, why don't you think about how you can die faster and reduce the pain before you die? That seems to be very clear. So, all of you die. The golden giant named Tu Wan immediately attacked after he finished speaking, not giving Princess Sisai and the others a chance to speak. The blood-red sickle slashed down like lightning. Princess Qian raised the Hell Tiger Divine sword in her hand to parry, but she was shocked to find that Tu Wan's blood scythe was like a living creature. It could extend infinitely. Her original parry didn't have any effect. Not good. If she raised her hand, she would be in danger of being beheaded. Princess Sisai was caught off guard. Even if she used all her strength to change her attack, she couldn't catch up to the speed of her opponent's heavy slash. Moreover, this strange blood-red sickle could extend infinitely. It was even faster than the heavy slash. The long curved blade had already reached the back of Princess Sisai's head. Crystal Dream. Sickly Beauty clasped her hands together and closed her beautiful eyes. Above her head, a dazzling rainbow rose up. Then, not only Princess Sisai's body, but the bodies of all her companions were also protected by a transparent and unbreakable crystal barrier. Sickly Beauty's kindness and tolerance towards life had always been an obstacle to the improvement of her attack power. Even though she had comprehended the sovereign's will, she was still a Sickly Beauty, who didn't want to take the initiative to kill her enemies, let alone take the lives of others. Battles and wars were naturally not suitable for her. The headmaster, who was passionate about research, was Yu Yang's most gentle wife. Unlike Princess Sisai and the others, she had no interest in following Yu Yang to fight on the battlefield. Instead, she was willing to quietly be his woman, wholeheartedly assisting him in his enlightenment and growth. With such a personality, Sickly Beauty was destined not to be a warrior on the battlefield known for her attack power. However, it was also because of this personality of Sickly Beauty that her understanding of defense was far superior to the other women. When she wore the crystal armor, raised the crystal shield, and covered herself with the power of the crystal domain and the unique sovereign's will, on the battlefield, even the gods wouldn't dare to say that they could break through her defense. The Sickly Beauty, she had actually been fighting with all her might. However, her fighting style wasn't to attack. Instead, it was to defend. Only her husband, Yu Yang, knew her secret wish of, "I want to use my own strength and my own way to protect my lover and my sisters." Only he could understand her hard work and determination in this aspect. She rarely participated in battles, so her strength wasn't accurately displayed. However, this didn't mean that she didn't improve. Every time Yu Yang improved, she, who had dual cultivated with her lover, would naturally improve by leaps and bounds. Today, when the greatest crisis of Tong Tian Tower arrived, Sickly Beauty, who was determined to protect her lover and her sisters, finally shone the brightest light in her life. Ding! The sickle blood flow, which could easily slash a 10,000-meter-tall mountain into 2 meters, or even cut it in half, was a godly weapon that could be ranked second among the dragon-devouring clan in the upper realm. However, under the sneak attack of its master, Tu Wan, it was actually blocked by a crystal wall that looked beautiful but was as thin as paper. How could this happen? It wasn't just Tu Wan who was the master. Even the few sky-swallowing clan warriors who were secretly laughing behind him had their jaws dropped to the ground. A crystal wall formed by willpower could block a heavy blow from a divine weapon? And it was a crystal wall that was as thin as paper? Could it be called a crystal wall? However, the truth was right in front of them. Even though it was unbelievable, it was the truth. Princess Sisai and the rest were in disbelief as well. They turned to look at Sickly Beauty, as if they were getting to know her all over again. The Sickly Beauty's expression was now serious, unlike her usual gentleness. She slowly opened her crystal-like eyes and stared at the sky-devouring warrior Tu Wan, who had fallen into a rage after his failed sneak attack. "You're just a fake god, don't even think of hurting my sisters." Even though I don't want to fight, I promised him that I would take good care of everyone. Don't even think about acting violently in front of me. Behind the Sickly Beauty, there were several pairs of incomparably exquisite crystal wings that couldn't even be described with words. With her sovereign willpower as the center, a crystal barrier expanded continuously. In the end, not only did it protect Princess Sisai and the rest, it also forcefully pushed Tu Wan, who was standing opposite of Princess Sisai, away. The golden giant named Tu Wan roared angrily. He reached out his right hand and forcefully blocked the crystal barrier. He intended to shatter it. However, even with his god-level strength, it was useless. In the end, he raised the divine weapon Blood Flow in his hand and struck it 100 times, but it could not shake the crystal barrier at all. What the hell, this is impossible. You're clearly not a god level. How could you create a barrier that even a god level and divine weapon could not break? Tu Wan could not understand at all. How could there be such a talent in this world? And how could there be someone who could comprehend and create this kind of crystal barrier that could only defend and not attack? Could it be that this woman in front of him had never thought of attacking others in her entire life? Even if it was an enemy? My supreme will is eternal and unmoving. You only know how to destroy, you don't even know how to create. How can you break my eternal will? The Sickly Beauty didn't want to explain. She knew that Tu Wan's strength was far above hers, but that didn't mean anything. Only by comprehending the true eternal true God could it be possible to break the crystal dream that she had created with her sovereign willpower. Sometimes, power was not omnipotent. This was the true meaning that she had comprehended from her lover's wisdom. Defeating the strong with the weak, using softness to overcome hardness, using slowness to counter speed, using roundness to break through the weak. Yu Yang's great wisdom was formed from the combination of various inherited knowledge and self-enlightenment. He shared it with her during dual cultivation, and improved together. How could Tu Wan, a fake god whose strength had reached god level on the surface, see through all of these? It's okay. Let's not talk about how impossible it is. Even if you hide in this turtle shell for the rest of your lives, we don't care. The golden giant Tu Wan suddenly calmed down. He shrugged and pretended to be at ease. He pulled out the divine weapon Blood Flow and hung it on his back, pretending to be resting after the battle. Killing all life in the Tong Tian Tower is the goal of the Sky-Swallowing clan. Leaving you behind to slowly torture you is not a bad idea. And if you are so naive to think that you will be safe with a crystal barrier like this, then you will be the biggest joke in the world. I, Tu Wan, am only the vanguard of the Sky-Swallowing clan to destroy the Tong Tian Tower. The real mastermind is the god-slaying Tu Shi. Compared to my brother, I, Tu Wan, am a great philanthropist who will be praised immediately. Ha ha ha, wait patiently. After we kill the scum of the Tong Tian Tower, we will come back to see your miserable state. God-slaying? Too sure? Princess Sisai pursed her lips and snorted in disdain. Never heard of it. Suddenly, she walked out of the crystal barrier. Under the incredulous gaze of Tu Wan and the rest, she slowly raised the tiger prison divine sword. Before that stupid god-slaying comes, let me give him a gift. I believe that if he sees your heads piled up in front of him, he will definitely feel the sincerity of my gift. Everyone, before you die, let me give you a free sentence. Tong Tian Tower is not a place for dogs and cats. Chapter 1283. Seeking Your Own Death. Tu Wan had originally thought that he could temporarily deal with these girls, because the defensive power of the crystal dream in front of him had far exceeded his expectations. However, this arrogant girl with the divine sword had actually abandoned the protection of her companions and arrogantly stood out in front of him. She couldn't possibly fight against him with just the divine sword in her hand, right? The divine sword was indeed the legendary prison Emperor divine sword. But how much of its power could she use? Tu Wan's eyes showed a hint of cruel pleasure. Because the one he was about to destroy was a female warrior of Tong Tian Tower who looked perfect on the outside. The more he knocked down the high and mighty position of this heaven's proud daughter and stepped on her, the greater the sense of accomplishment in his heart. Maybe in less than a minute, she would kneel in front of him like a lowly dog, begging for her life. What kind of humiliation should he use to torture such a proud girl? Should he use her crying and licking his toes, or should he peel off her flawless white skin bit by bit under her pleading? Yes, maybe he should do it this way. He should pull out her internal organs, pull out all her long intestines, and use her as a human kite to fly in the sky. 4 symbols combine. Princess Sisai slowly straightened her left hand, then slowly retracted it. She closed her fingers and clenched her fist. On top of her head, thousands of lightning bolts condensed into an incomparably wonderful green dragon knot. It looked like sword chi, but more like a runic circle that carried the will of the holy power. The flaming wings that could burn all things rose from Princess Qianqian's back. That kind of heat forced the golden giant Tu Wan to take a step back uncontrollably, and he finally woke up from his crazy fantasy. When Tu Wan came back to his senses, he found that the area below his feet had unknowingly been frozen by some kind of terrifying ice power. The strangest thing was that this kind of freezing and the heat between his breath did not conflict at all. Instead, they complemented each other, making the heat even hotter and the ice even colder. Other than that, Tu Wan also felt a kind of hidden but definitely existing killing intent. Compared to his own blood beheading, it was not inferior at all. It was even more sudden and explosive. When the 4 completely different types of energy, lightning, fire, ice and killing intent perfectly fused together, and then used by the divine sword, that kind of power, Tu Wan secretly swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His originally disdainful heart turned into caution. Now he finally understood. It turned out that these girls from Tong Tian Tower cultivated to the extreme. The girl just now was purely defensive and did not have any attack power. With her unlimited focus and innate talent, the Crystal Dream's barrier could not even be broken by his blood flow scythe. Right now, this woman was the exact opposite. She mainly walked the path of attack and did not defend at all. She put all her strength into killing. She belonged to the type that would risk her life and kill with a single strike. As long as she dodged the first strike, then she would be finished. A martial artist who could only attack without defense was like a cripple walking on one leg. There was nothing to be afraid of. Kill! Princess Sisai raised the Helltiger Divine Sword high. The 4 types of saint energy merged together exploded perfectly. In that instant, the heavens and earth trembled under her murderous intent. It's better to avoid it. The golden giant Tu Wan's expression was grave. Although he was a divine-level expert, he was not an idiot. It was impossible for him to forcefully receive such a desperate attack. Even if he could receive it, there was no need for him to be injured. What was face and honor worth? Only the one who obtained the final victory would be the true winner on the battlefield. Moreover, there was no need to face such a desperate attack directly. It was fine as long as he dodged it easily. It was the most labor-saving method. If he could achieve the best result, why not? Tu Wan waved the divine weapon blood flow scythe and cut through the space. In the instant when the laws of heaven and earth closed up, he pierced through the space and turned into a ray of golden light, flying into the endless void. When he returned 3 seconds later, he believed that he would be able to make a counterattack that would reverse the situation. When the opponent's strength was at its weakest, he would heavily chop off half of her body from behind. At that time, he believed that the expression on her face would be very pleasing to look at. He, who had escaped into the void, did not see that Princess Qian, who had slashed down with all her might, had, within 1,000th of a second, freely stopped the 4 symbols saint energy that seemed to have reached its limit and was hard to control. Unknowingly, the Southern Goblin King had already stood out. Her jade-like hands. She lightly played her pipa. The tinkling sound was like spring water flowing over rocks in the forest. The few sky-swallowing clan members who had the same thought as Tu Wan and had escaped into the void earlier suddenly could not hide anymore. One by one, they reappeared in front of Princess Sisai and looked at the Hell Tiger Divine sword hovering above their heads in shock. Isn't the returning melody very pleasing to the ears? How about another storm? That's a heavenly sound that can even shatter space. The Southern Demon King's pale fingers waved gracefully on the jade pipa in her arms. Her 5 fingers were like a wheel. In the next second, the entire space immediately turned into billions of fragments and started to spin in a whirlpool. No! The few sky-swallowing clan powerhouses were terrified to find that because of the shattering of space, Tu Wan, who was supposed to return for the surprise attack, had disappeared. The few of them were sucked into the whirlpool of the space storm and could not easily escape in a short period of time. The Hell Tiger Divine sword above their heads ignored all obstacles. Inch by inch it slashed down. There was no other power in the world that could resist its destructive will. Just like that, they could only watch it descend. Even if they had all their strength, they could not use it at all. The few sky-swallowing clan powerhouses screamed in despair. Of course, before their voices left their lips, they were already sucked into the space storm. There was no way for them to transmit their master's will of fear. What made them even more desperate was that the divine sword did not slash their bodies in half like normal swords. Instead, it slashed heavily on the void, completely destroying the space that was constantly mending itself. No matter how strong one's body was, even if it was turned into dust, it was useless. Because what she wanted to destroy was not the body, but the space. The space storm shattered again. It collapsed under the divine sword. First, it erupted outwards. However, before it could completely expand, the ancient laws had already retracted and returned to the starting point of creation. The few sky-swallowing clan powerhouses in the center of the collapsing space did not even have time to cry out before they were annihilated in this newly formed black hole. Just like the destroyed space, both their bodies and souls were peeled off layer by layer. Finally, they were all destroyed to their original state. Nirvana deification? The destruction and seal that even gods could not escape from. Maybe it was like this. Before their souls were annihilated, they suddenly thought of the terrifying term nirvana deification at the same time. Tu Wan realized that he had lost his way in the void. The place that he had secretly left to guide him back had mysteriously shattered. Perhaps this was the plot of the Tong Tian Tower women. They were not his match at all, but they used tricks to successfully force him to retreat. However, if they thought that they could be safe this way, they were very wrong. No matter how far he left the void behind, he would not leave the Tong Tian Tower. Because he had the guidance of the Eastern Palace Master's inherent skill. No matter what, he would not leave the Tong Tian Tower. These arrogant Tong Tian Tower women, when they meet in the next battle, he believed that the expressions on their faces would be very interesting. Tu Wan waved the blood scythe, relying on his body's instinctive guidance to return to the Tong Tian Tower. Perhaps the landing point this time was completely different from before. But what did it matter? As long as they were in the Tong Tian Tower. Those women, as well as all the lives in the Tong Tian Tower, would not be able to escape the fate of being beheaded. The revenge that the Sky-Swallowing clan had been waiting for 10,000 years would officially begin at this moment. When Tu Wan returned to the Tong Tian Tower, he could not help but roar towards the sky. Trying to trap him in the void? Dream on. Honorable God Level, the Eastern Palace Master has specially ordered us to wait for your arrival here. In the sky not far away, there were close to 100 auxiliary soldiers from the heaven realm flying over like arrows. All of them prostrated on the ground to show their respect to this god-level ranker. Their small leader did not even dare to raise his head to look at Tu Wan's face. He could only kiss the ground under Tu Wan's feet in worship as he reported to the descending god. The place you are at is the heaven stairway at the bottom of the Tong Tian Tower. The distance to the heaven stairway's 5th level, White River Valley, is less than 10,000 kilometers. Very good, Mr. Dong Fang always wants to be ahead of others. This god is very satisfied with his meticulous work. Tu Wan was also very satisfied with these escorts who prostrated on the ground and respectfully kissed the ground under his feet. This kind of respect made him feel the importance and courtesy of the Eastern Palace Master. There were so many people in the Heaven Realm army, but how many of them could receive such courtesy from him? Jindi? Demon Emperor? Can their styles compare to mine? Not to mention the East, West, North and the others who came to ask for money, but in the end they would definitely end up empty-handed. Tu Wan was elated. He immediately felt that he needed to express his gratitude to the Eastern Palace Master for his unparalleled courtesy. Speak, what does your Palace Master want this god to do? Although I have supreme free will, I don't mind listening to my old friend's plan. Besides, I believe in his wisdom. He must have come up with some ideas since he is so meticulous in his calculations, right? It's like this. The Palace Master found out that there are a few little mice from Tong Tian Tower who want to secretly support the Night Empress who is fighting against the immovable revered elder. He hopes that the Honorable Sir will take action and kill these clowns who might disrupt the battle. The leader of the Heaven Realm auxiliary troops had excellent eloquence and his flattery was extremely brilliant. This made Tu Wan feel incomparably satisfied. His heart felt as if it was floating, as if he was drinking fine wine. Go back and tell your Palace Master that this kind of thing is too simple, this god can easily complete it. Next time, don't let this god do this kind of unchallenging task. Forget it, I won't be able to explain it clearly to you. Go back and report. Not only the little mice that sneaked over, but also the Night Empress who thinks she can fight against the immovable revered elder. This god will also kill her. Just treat it as a little surprise for Mr. Dong Fang. Tu Wan arrogantly waved his hand, indicating for the Heaven Realm auxiliary troops to leave. He held the blood scythe in his hand and activated his divine sense, using all his strength to sense the movements within 1,000 miles. A sneaky little mouse? Just nice. He urgently needed a little killing and blood to satisfy his hungry and thirsty heart. Chapter 1284. Tu Wan quickly sensed the target. It had to be said that the Eastern First Palace Master's talent and wisdom were too shocking. After Tu Wan made a mistake in fighting Princess Sisai and the others and fell into the void, he immediately guided Tu Wan to another battlefield to display his power. This guidance not only crossed a vast space, but also accurately landed within 500 miles of the enemy. The entire arrangement was terrifyingly perfect. At this distance, Tu Wan could rely on his divine-level senses to search for the enemy. But the enemy knew nothing about it. In this world, only the Eastern First Palace Master, who had talent in chess and used heaven and earth as his chess pieces, could do this. The Eastern First Palace Master gradually began to take on the role of an official, gathering the large net that he had laid out long ago on the battlefield. In order to achieve this, even Tu Wan, who had reached the divine level, could not avoid becoming a chess piece that he could freely control. This was the Eastern First Palace Master's unparalleled talent in chess that could control everything. Go to hell, poor little mice. Tu Wan, who had discovered the target, excitedly released the terrifying power of the divine level. He impatiently used the blood scythe to cut open the space. He could not wait to fly, and directly teleported to the side of the target that was about to launch an attack. As a hidden chess piece of the Eastern First Palace Master, he had waited for a long time. He was originally prepared to have a feast of blood when he appeared, but he did not expect to be forced into the void by his opponent and almost lost inside. Now that he finally had a chance, he simply could not wait a second longer. Beheading, heads, fresh blood, and desperate wails. These were the things that his hungry and thirsty heart needed the most. Tu Wan, like a god descending, suddenly broke through the air and landed in front of the few targets that were hurrying over. They were little mice in his eyes. Actually, they were a few women. In the middle was a flower fairy dressed in a beautiful flowery robe. Her body was covered in rainbow-colored rings. What made Tu Wan very unhappy was that this flower fairy also seemed to be at the divine level. Her faintly discernible divine intent and power made Tu Wan feel an invisible pressure. No wonder the Eastern First Palace Master would let him intercept them. So the opponent was a divine level. However, Tu Wan didn't think that a divine-level flower fairy, who was at most a support-type flower fairy, would be able to pose any threat to him. Perhaps in the process of killing her, she would be slightly more troublesome, but in the end, she definitely wouldn't be able to escape the fate of death. On second thought, Tu Wan felt that it was actually not bad to have such an enemy. He could abuse and play for a longer time, and after completing the mission, he would have a greater sense of accomplishment. Most importantly, defeating a divine ranker would allow him to win a higher position in the heart of the Eastern Palace Master. Standing to the left of the flower fairy was a dragon lady who seemed to be at the divine level. Moreover, she was clearly a combat-type dragon lady. He had a strange will about him. Tu Wan felt that his most troublesome opponent might be her and not that flower fairy. He couldn't help but take a few more glances at her. On the right of the flower fairy was a queen of the Bloody clan. Her strength seemed to be at the level of a divine envoy or a divine general. She wasn't worth too much attention at all. Standing next to this queen of the Bloody clan seemed to be a sheep lady from the sheep clan. However, this sheep lady was too tall and slender. If it wasn't for the pure white curved horns on her head, one would suspect that she was a human woman and not a tamed sheep lady. On the other side of that dragon lady was a flame spirit from the ghost clan. This kind of spirit without any intelligence. It wasn't worth wasting time. Tu Wan only took a casual glance and determined the order of attack. First, he would kill that weak sheep lady, then the queen of the Bloody clan. Next, he would casually kill that spirit without any intelligence. In the process, he would find an opportunity to severely injure or kill that non-combat type flower fairy. Finally, he would naturally fight that dragon lady who was a combat type. It would probably take some time to deal with this dragon lady, but the rest were not a problem. Alright, I admit that you guys aren't small mice that can be easily dealt with, but rather big mice that have successfully aroused this god's interest. Let's play a game together, and its theme is blood and screams. Tu Wan proudly looked up to the sky and let out a long laugh. Who is this idiot? Duo, who Tu-Wan saw as a non-combat type flower fairy, adorably frowned. I don't know. Who knows where this idiot came from? The hornless dragon Jiang had never heard of Tu-Wan before. How can there be such a guy in the heaven realm? I feel that this guy can pull down the intelligence level of the entire heaven realm by a level. Compared to this guy, I found that Fatty Hai is also a smart person. Red was suddenly worried that idiocy was contagious. If her words were heard by Fatty Hai, even if he didn't vomit blood and roll on the ground in anger, he would cry himself to death. The Hai family's young master was originally a smart person. Although his IQ was often low, he wouldn't mistake Duo as a non-combat type flower fairy and Ah-Man as a sheep girl. There were only two kinds of people who would mistake Ah-Man for a sheep lady. One was a blind person. The other was a blind person with a worrisome IQ. As for those who would mistake Duo for a flower fairy, there was only one kind of person. That was an idiot whose IQ was so low that it could be contagious. Ah-Man was a little speechless towards Tu-Wan, who suddenly jumped out from the void and laughed like an idiot. He couldn't even tell that there were two divine tier rankers standing right in front of him. His IQ was really... Forget it, this kind of person should die early. She jumped up and punched the golden giant, Tu-Wan, who was laughing maniacally with lightning speed. You're courting death. Tu-Wan was indeed a divine tier ranker. His reaction was very fast. However, he did not understand. Why was it that the person who attacked him, a divine tier ranker, was this ordinary-looking sheep lady? Why was it not that combat-type dragon lady? Other than her, who else could withstand an attack from his divine weapon blood flow scythe? But forget it, he would first chop off this sheep lady's head as a sign of good fortune. He waved the blood flow scythe. In an instant it cut through space. It cut through heaven and earth. Before Ah-Man's fist came crashing down, it heavily struck her shoulder. Ah-Man, who was wearing a warrior's attire, was probably used to wearing the black tortoise armor specially made by Yu Yang. She ignored the enemy's attack and did not defend at all. She used her shoulder to receive the heavy strike from the divine weapon. Hiss, blood splattered from her shoulder. The blade of the blood flow scythe left a long wound, half of it sinking into her shoulder. Tu-Wan was a little puzzled. His strike should have been able to split the entire mountain. Why couldn't he sever the sheep lady's shoulder? Moreover, the wound was very shallow. It did not look like the normal state of splitting the opponent in half. What kind of special race was this sheep lady from? How could her body's defense be so high? However, no matter how high her defense was, it was useless. Because what was killing her now was the divine weapon blood flow that he was most proud of. As long as the target was killed by the blood flow scythe, they would all bleed to death. Unless it was a god, even if it was a giant dragon, it would fall to the ground and bleed to death under its destructive power. Ah-Man discovered that not only her shoulder, but her back, arms, and neck were also lacerated. The enemy's weapon had a murderous intent that could greatly worsen the wound. Blood, like a fountain, gushed out from the wound. In an instant, Ah-Man, who had become a bloody person, did not collapse like Tu-Wan had imagined. Her wounds continued to worsen and she continued to bleed, but she still stood as steady as a mountain. There was no sign of her collapsing to the ground and bleeding to death. What kind of race are you? Tu-Wan was puzzled. How could there be a race that could not bleed to death in this world? If she was a ghost or a dead spirit, it would be fine. They had no blood to bleed to, but she was clearly a sheep lady. With such heavy injuries, how could she be fine? This weapon is not bad. It's mine. Ah-Man stretched out her bloody hand and tightly grasped the blood flow scythe. Wishful thinking. Tu-Wan sneered when he heard this. The divine weapon chose its master. Moreover, the divine weapon itself had the ability to repel and resist the invasion of the enemy. If it did not recognize its master, how could it be taken with bare hands? A man's hands that were holding the blood flow scythe suddenly exploded, as if they had been cut by countless sword chi. Her skin and muscles split open, and the bloody wounds not only split open, but also rapidly worsened. The blood flow scythe, the divine weapon, instinctively resisted the invasion of man's will. Tu-Wan knew that this would be the result. He had done this kind of invasion more than once in battle. But all the enemies who tried to invade the blood flow scythe were heavily injured by the will and power of the divine weapon. They had no choice but to give up on this greedy and impossible act. She wanted to take the divine weapon with her bare hands? Haha, such a person has never been born in this world. Ha! A man ignored the tearing wounds on her hand. With a loud roar, she forcibly snatched the blood flow scythe from Tu-Wan's hands. Even though the blood flow scythe was still madly injuring her hands. But it was as if she did not feel any pain. She held it tightly. Seeing this, Red shook her head. Ah man, this weapon might not be suitable for you to use, forget it. A man held it tightly without saying a word. This blood flow scythe might not be suitable for her to use, but she, who had been deeply influenced by her master, Yu Yang, knew the importance of fighting monsters and seizing treasures for her master. So, she would not give up. Anything in this world that was useful to her master, she would persist. Not to mention seizing a divine weapon. Even if it was the destruction of the entire heaven realm, as long as it was his wish, she would not hesitate to complete it. Give me back the blood flow scythe. Tu-Wan was about to go crazy. Was there something wrong with this damned sheep girl's mind? It was obviously a divine weapon that could not be taken, but she was still holding it in her hands. What made Tu-Wan even more dizzy was that when he pounced towards man, he found that the one standing in front of him, blocking him, had changed to red. And man, who was still holding the blood flow scythe tightly without letting go, was now carrying the divine weapon and running away. Tu-Wan was furious. His speed was 1,000 times faster than lightning. Bypassing Red's obstruction, he madly pounced towards man who was running with the blood flow scythe. Man suddenly turned her head, her eyes flashing with a strange red light. Tu-Wan's whole body instantly froze on the spot, his eyes glazed over as he stood still in midair. His movements were still in a charging position, but his body had completely stopped. By the time he escaped from the soul world that was affected by death stare, man had already disappeared without a trace with the blood flow scythe. Tu-Wan, who had a splitting headache, held his head and groaned in pain. He was almost killed. If he didn't possess the powerful divine level, his soul would have long since been annihilated by that reaper's scythe. Just what kind of race does this sheep girl belong to? How could she possess such an inconceivable innate ability? Tu-Wan could not understand. She did not die from bleeding, her wounds did not hurt, and she could even use death stare. Was she still a weak woman? Don't waste too much time on this fool, let's hurry up. Duo was not in the mood to fight with trash like Tu-Wan. After man, she was the first to teleport away. Jiang Ying, are you staying? I'm guessing that this guy is a sacrificial pawn sent by the East to die. He might be used as a sacrifice or some other hidden move. Don't kill him for now, just cripple him. Let's go too. Red gestured towards the chaotic spirit. Our target is Ji Zun. Leave this guy to Jiang Ying. She has the supreme dragon god's guillotine and is the best way to deal with this kind of brainless idiot. When Tu-Wan's headache had passed, he was completely awake. In front of him, there was only the dragon lady who he thought was the strongest, Jiang Ying. The hornless dragon girl was very dissatisfied with her companion throwing this troublesome, garbage disposal task to her. However, she was the easiest to talk to and was always in deep sleep. She usually had the least chance to perform. She really could not be picky. Thinking of this, the hornless dragon girl adjusted her attitude and got into a fighting stance. Tu-Wan was furious like a volcano erupting. In this assassination mission, not only did he not kill his opponent, He even let the goat girl snatch away his most beloved divine weapon. This was simply outrageous. What angered him the most was the attitude of the dragon lady opposite him. Was this the expression she should have when facing a divine rancor? Even if there was no fear, shouldn't there at least be some seriousness or nervousness? Her face was relaxed. Did she think that this was an outing to catch butterflies? The giant fist smashed towards the hornless dragon girl's head. The furious Tuwan was prepared to punch this dragon girl flat, and then chase after the goat girl who had stolen his blood flow divine artifact. He wanted to crush all the bones in that damned goat girl's body piece by piece, dismantle them, and throw them into chaos. Then, he would completely reconstruct her human form. Too slow. Tuwan heard such a shout. Then, he felt the back of his neck tighten. He was actually held in midair by his opponent. In the next second, the 5-meter-tall golden giant Tu Long was held by the back of his neck by Jiang Ying. Like throwing rubbish, she spun him a few times and threw him out. Then, with a speed that was 10,000 times faster than a meteor in the sky, he flew 100,000 meters away. After smashing through a mountain, he was deeply buried in the mountain. When he dizzily crawled out of the soil, he found that the powerful dragon lady had already disappeared. On the ground, there was a direction that she had purposely drawn. The direction was towards White River Valley. Damn it, I will not forgive you. The furious Tuwan's eyes were bloodshot. Like a mad bull, he madly chased in the direction indicated. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.